as president for the remainder of my term. This comes after multiple Democratic lawmakers and donors called for him to leave the presidential race, including several Arizona politicians, including Congressman Greg Stanton and U.S. Representative Rahul Grijalva. Concern grew after Biden struggled during the June debate against Donald Trump. Once again, breaking today, President Biden has announced he will no longer seek the nomination for President of the United States. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app. And for more, go to the KTAR.com. We are getting reactions to news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Donald Trump on Truth Social says that Biden is not fit to run for president and is not fit to serve. The former president says that the nation will suffer greatly because of the Biden presidency, although he plans to remedy the damage. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has made a statement saying that President Biden is the embodiment of a public servant. Katie Hobbs is the Democratic governor of the state. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. We have construction closures this weekend. The I-10 westbound is closed between the US 60 and the I-17. This is near Sky Harbor. And in Tempe, the southbound Loop 101 Price Freeway is closed for construction between the Red Mountain Loop 101 and the US 60. And then one more closure in Scottsdale. This is the northbound Loop 101 Pima Freeway. It's closed between Rain Tree Drive and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. KTAR weather for the valley this afternoon. It is sunny, and then it becomes partly sunny again, partly cloudy, with a high near 109. There's a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 4 p.m. today. It's 104 degrees in Phoenix right now. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle on Arizona's news station, KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues on KTAR.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
Well, the breaking news that I'm sure you've heard all day long since about, 10:30 this morning, Joe? It was that President Joe Biden releasing a statement withdrawing from the presidential race, saying, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down." He released that letter on social media. If that gives you any indication of the world that we're in right now, saying not only that he says he's done a really great job, his letter touted his accomplishments over the last 4 years, and applauded the American people, said it's been the greatest honor of my life to serve you as president. While it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. He goes on to say that he thanks Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all the work and his heartfelt appreciation to, again, the American people. And he says he believes today what he always has, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Joe, how much of a surprise was this?
To me, not very much. You and I talked last week that we both felt like it was more of a when, not if, Biden would get out. You were saying, 65% chance, 35% he'd stay in. I said about 80% chance he'd get out. And we both increasingly were headed that way. Like you mentioned, 10:45, he releases this letter. 30 minutes later, he comes out and offers his full support and endorsement to Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party.
That doesn't come as a huge surprise to me either. And I think in many cases, because what's going on is Joe Biden says, look at all the things I've done, genuinely believes that he's been a great president, wants the tone of his administration to continue. And the only way to do that is with his hand-picked replacement, who's already on the ticket, Kamala Harris. We'll talk about some of the obstacles that the Democrats may have to overcome starting about 3 hours ago. That is a little bit later on as we do our special coverage here at KTAR News on air, online, on the KTAR News app, on Facebook, and live streaming on YouTube as well. So Joe Huizinga, Chris Merrill anchoring. We'll talk with some of our other weekday hosts who are popping in later on in the program here. He endorses Kamala Harris. A few others have come out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Obama released a statement praising Joe Biden, not specifically saying anything about Kamala Harris. Should we read anything into that?
think you can read into it what you want to read into it. Maybe Obama wants it to go to the convention and see what names come up. And I think you can make a case for all sorts of different things. I think if you're the Democrats, the best thing would be to pick a nominee as soon as possible and go with it. But I think you could also argue that, hey, maybe it's good that we get all these names out there so we don't have these little pockets and these little, fires and smoldering that we see pop up like we have with Biden over the last month, where every day it was one congressperson coming out and saying, hey, I think you should step aside. And the what do you want to say? The
drumbeat.
The chorus just kind of grew for him to go. And you could see the same thing with Harris. If they make that decision too swiftly, do you have people come out and say, well, maybe we should have went to the convention and seen, about a Mark Kelly or a Gavin Newsom or a Gretchen Whitmer?
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about potential replacements coming up here, too, because I would say that anybody who would be a potential replacement atop the ticket has to be considered as a potential replacement
at the second spot on the ticket is
exactly.
the VP, no doubt about it.
Now, there is an advantage, and Karen Travers from ABC was reporting on this. There is an advantage to having Kamala Harris as the next one up, and that is fundraising.
It's the Biden-Harris campaign, of course. She has the easiest access to the money if she replaces him and becomes the Democratic nominee. She can take over the committee and automatically get access to that funding, $96 million. The Biden campaign could also transfer all of its cash on hand to the DNC, which could then turn around and use the money to support the eventual nominee. But there are some restrictions on that because of campaign finance rules and coordination.
All right. So the campaign finance rules are in place to make sure that you don't have somebody who just nefariously drops out and then hands all their money off in order to, coalesce behind somebody that we didn't vote for in the primaries. We being the voters, not me. I didn't vote in the primaries for anybody. I don't endorse any candidate on the air, and I won't. But that said, not everybody is unified around Harris.
No.
And so while it may be really easy because effectively, analogously, she's the co-signer on the account, right? That doesn't mean that everybody wants her to be that person. One of the things that we've yet to see is we look at people who are endorsing, not endorsing. We're getting statements from high-ranking officials. There were some other people who were in some, let's say, influential local positions, whether that be the NAACP in Georgia or a union in Detroit, whatever it might be. You have people who said that without Biden on the ticket, they were going to pull all of their efforts. We haven't heard from them whether or not they're going to follow through on some of those threats yet. So I think that's a very interesting aspect that we're going to be watching this week. And obviously, you and I will have another 24 hours to digest that before we're on the air again tomorrow here on KTAR.
I just pulled up the countdown clock to see when we hit November 5th, Tuesday, Election Day, the general election, 106 days away. So this is a real sprint to get to the finish line for the Democrats. And they don't want to just put a nice nominee out there. Their goal is to retain the White House.
Of course,
and for the last 4 years, the whole thought was it's going to be Biden. It's going to be Biden. And they've been able to march to that drumbeat for the last 4 years. And all of a sudden today, you have to put a new plan together in 106 days.
Right.
And really, you have to put a plan together in about a week, because you're heading to the convention and you can't do anything after the convention. So they have to figure out, what do we want to say, in the next couple weeks for sure, because the Democratic convention is
on the 19th.
Mid-August.
Yeah.
So they really need to put things together in a couple weeks, or you and I had talked last week about this roll call, which they want to have virtual roll call before the actual roll call at
which
the
would
convention.
start August 1st.
So they need to figure things out quickly, and they've still got to get ready for presumably a September debate with President Trump. But they've got to move here, and there's no time to dilly-dally, and all of the party infighting that we know happens with the Republicans and the Democrats needs to be put to bed here quickly if their goal is to win.
Let's also remember that anybody else that is going to step into that ticket, either as the top spot or the second spot, is going to have to instantly brush up on all of the things that the president deals with. That means foreign affairs. That means all the domestic issues. Let's say they take somebody who's not in a border state. Say it's a Pritzker out of Illinois. what does he know about the southern border other than people have been bused to Chicago, right? I mean, other than that, what does he know about the southern border? Does he know the ins and outs? Who knows what about what Syria has? Iran just shot down missiles that were launched from Yemen overnight. So who knows anything about Yemen and Iran? Who's ready to go right now? I don't know that there's a plug and play.
Well, you bring up the border, and that's a big deal, too, because you know the GOP is going to go
Hammer.
at VP Harris on it. Mary Bruce from ABC News laid out some of that case.
Kamala Harris was tasked by President Biden to tackle the root causes of immigration. She was never put in charge of border security, despite the argument that you may hear from Republicans, and I suspect you're going to continue to hear from Republicans. They see that as a real political opportunity for them to try and take some hits at Kamala Harris. But she certainly has been very involved in the issue of immigration and the root causes of that. Abortion, though, is the issue that she has owned.
So she might know about immigration, but the GOP knows that they can pick away at her there because at the end of the day, the Biden policies on immigration have been lax to non-existent. Abortion is what the Democrats want to make this election all about. The Republicans want to make it all about immigration. And I feel like whichever side can come out from that debate and look like they have the upper hand, that's who's going to decide the election.
You know, what's interesting is that Kamala Harris has really been an outspoken individual when it comes to the abortion debate.
Mm-hmm.
So if she is the nominee, her weakness is immigration, but her strength is abortion.
Mm-hmm.
So do they cancel each other out, I guess is the question. Does her strength on abortion cancel out her weakness on immigration, or does her weakness on immigration cancel out the... You see what I mean?
I think they have
curious.
some uphill work to do on the Democratic side because I think immigration right now nationally is a more undecided, more for debate issue than abortion. I think people are firmly entrenched with abortion and where they're at.
Vice President Kamala Harris has now spoken out. We'll tell you what she had to say. And I know you've all been waiting to find out what RFK thinks. Well, you will. And you've been hearing people say for weeks that Biden should gracefully exit the race. So what was the final straw? Even just last night, he was saying he was in it to win it. That's next on KTAR News special coverage of Joe Biden dropping out of the 2024 presidential race.
KTAR Breaking News Alert.
We are getting reactions to the news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Donald Trump on Truth Social says that Biden was not fit to run for president and is not fit to serve. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has made a statement saying that President Biden is the embodiment of a public servant. She says, quote, "While the timing of this announcement may be unprecedented, our country's foundational principles of democracy guide us forward. A healthy democracy requires that Americans engage in thorough debate and deliberation to choose our nominee." Democratic Congressman and Senate candidate Ruben Gallego released a statement highlighting the achievements of President Biden. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com. We go live now to special coverage with Chris and Joe.
A KTAR News special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right, Chris Merrill, Joe Huizinga anchoring coverage as Mark Kelly now we're hearing is giving his support to Kamala Harris to take over now at the top of the Democratic ticket as Joe Biden announcing about 3 hours ago that he is not going to seek re-election. This is about the latest I can ever recall any candidate saying that they're not going to do it. Of course, I don't recall any of it because I wasn't born in 1968, the last time that we had an eligible incumbent president say that they were not going to seek re-election.
And that was in January, I believe.
Yes.
That it was January of 68.
Yeah, Johnson
Lyndon
gave plenty
Johnson
of time.
made that decision.
Yeah, he gave lots of time on that one. So we'll find out, how this plays out. It is an historic day, and I was struck by that. I was telling my youngest son today, he's 25, and I said, we had plans to go to Costco. Thank God I got out of that. And I said...
Not quite as historic.
I said, it's a big day. This is an historic day. And he said, why? What's going on? And I told him, I said, the president has just decided not to run for re-election.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, you knew that was going to happen, right? Well, we were
Suspected.
guessing. Yeah, I was really looking at the clock, and I thought if it didn't happen this week, it wasn't going to happen. And, of course, it comes today, which to Mark Halperin, the reporter from Newsmax, he said today was the day, and he was right. although Biden didn't give any indication prior to today. So it struck me that this is an historic day.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in my lifetime. Here he is. He's been voting. This will be his, second election, I think, that he could have voted in, if I'm doing my math right. Presidential election that he could have voted in. My 25-year-old son. And so, here he is. He sees all this disarray that's going on. We haven't seen this since 1968. Coincidentally, we haven't seen a presidential candidate shot since 1968 when it happened to RFK, right?
Yeah.
That was a tumultuous year. I'd say this is a tumultuous year.
Oh, no doubt about it. And the question is, what's going to be next? Because I don't think after today that July 22nd moving forward is just going to be smooth sailing. I think that there are a lot of issues that are going to come up. There's all sorts of questions on the Democratic side. Who is the nominee going to be? What is the convention going to look like? Will it be a convention where they still have to pick a nominee? What's that debate going to look like in September? Will there even be a debate in September? Because the thought was it was going to be Biden-Trump, and that Biden would really need to be making up some ground there. Well, now we know Joe is out. So with that being the case, is it a Harris or somebody else from the Democratic side? If you're the Republicans, you're coming off I would say, successful but not perfect convention. I think you've certainly united the core of the party.
Yeah.
But did you bring in any moderates, or did you bring in anybody who was outside of your base? I would argue not very many.
Well, I think they may have brought some people in. If I can just opine for a moment, Joe, I think they may have brought some people in that were on the fence, that didn't like either candidate. And then they saw the enthusiasm from Trump, and they went, you know what? Okay, I'm going to lean that direction now. But now that Biden is out, remember, what was it? 80% of the country said they didn't like either one of these candidates, and now you're presenting, one party is going to present somebody different. Does that change? Does that change the equation now? Because if 80% didn't like either one of them, I got to believe that there are votes to grab for a new, fresh-faced, under new management type candidate.
I certainly think it could if it's not Harris. If it's Harris, I think most of the country will sit there and go, well, this is just Joe Biden under a different name. This is that administration, his VP candidate.
I guess it depends on whether or not you think Joe Biden was not a viable candidate because of his policies, or if you think he was not a viable candidate because of his lucidity. And if you think that he was not a viable candidate simply because he wasn't with it, then maybe Harris is the person that you want. If you think it was a policy issue, then you're not going to support anybody that comes from that side anyway, right?
I still think those undecideds are undecided, for lack of a better term. I think most of those people sat there and watched President Trump last week, and I think they had a tremendous amount of sympathy for him and the fact that there was an assassination attempt on his life.
Yeah.
But I didn't, again, what I heard about his speech on Thursday night was the first 40, 45 minutes might have moved the needle a little, but then the next 40 to 45 minutes afterwards might have moved it right back.
People were falling asleep. Yeah.
Well, and it sounded more like a campaign rally.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the country, the undecideds out there, say, this is not what I want to hear. I want to see somebody who can reach across the aisle a little bit, who will speak to me, who doesn't expect me to come to you, and who can really unite the country.
Could it be RFK Jr.? Remember, he originally ran as a Democrat before he bailed out of that and then decided to run as an independent. He's been polling at about 15% or so. RFK Jr., the independent running for president, issuing a statement on social media saying that he felt that, this is CBS News reporting, he felt Mr. Biden's infirmities were evident to any unbiased observer from the beginning. It was this progressive deterioration and his abandonment of the Democratic Party principles that prompted me to enter the race and ensure American voters had a viable, vigorous alternative to Donald Trump. Kennedy said he felt the party should use neutral polling to identify the candidate who can best beat Trump rather than anointing a candidate chosen by DNC elites. He is quoted as saying the delegates should then select a nominee based on this information. If they had done this to begin with, I would not have had to leave the Democratic Party. I'm hearing shades of I want it from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Are you hearing that?
Oh, no doubt about it. But if you're the Democrats, how strong of an overture do you have to RFK to say, hey, we're going to go with Harris. You could be the VP here. Would he be interested in that at all? Because if you could cinch up 15% there of the support that he's getting and pull that all under the support that you were getting with Biden that you'll presumably get with Harris, that would look really good for them. Or does RFK sit there and go, nope, you know what? I'm going to do what I was going to do, and we're just going to let the chips fall where they may.
What do you suppose was the straw that broke the camel's back, Joe Huizenga? Because Biden, up until yesterday, was saying he is in it to win it. But then I was seeing news reports this morning. Ludicrous. Donors leave a call with Harris frustrated and annoyed. This is before he announced he was dropping out. So it sounds like donors were very upset. Trump favorability rises following shooting. Majority of Americans want Biden to end campaign. Joe Manchin is the latest to call for a new nominee. That was just this morning. Is it the drumbeat of people saying we got to have somebody fresh? Was it the polling numbers? Is it the donor class that pushed Joe out? For a long time, we heard Joe likes to be the underdog. He's not going anywhere. And yet this morning, what seemed obvious to so many of us came to fruition.
I think there were going to be more voices that were going to come out. Jonathan Karl from ABC News had some more on that.
A large group of Democratic elected officials who have not yet come out publicly calling on Biden to step out were preparing to go public with their feeling that he needs to step out, get out of the race. This included, I am told, a significant group of U.S. senators.
So it's one thing when it's Raul Grijalva. It's one thing when it's a Greg Stanton. And we were up to, about 30 congressmen?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And not a lot of senators, a couple. But if you start to see those major names, at some point you're Joe Biden, and you have to just do the calculus on it. And you have to sit there and go, the names are going to continue to come out here. The money is drying up for me. Even if I want this to go on, I'm not going to be able to make it go on. And we heard a lot of back channeling going on. The Chuck Schumers reaching out to him, the Nancy Pelosi's reaching out behind the scenes, but they weren't publicly coming out and saying he needs to go. They were all kind of saying, we want him to make the decision, what he feels best. Well, if you have a large group of senators, I don't know who was in that group, but what do you do if you're Joe Biden? And for instance, it could have been a Mark Kelly or others who come out and say, you know what, it's time for you to go. Don't you kind of become a lame duck right there?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And wouldn't you rather do it to yourself than have others do it to you? I
think you would. Let's do this. I'd like to hear what you think. 602-277-KTAR. 602-277-5827 is our number. And I'm wondering about your reaction. Democrat, Republican, whether you were decided, undecided, are you happy about this? Are you peeved? Are you nervous? I could see members of the GOP being nervous all of a sudden. Obviously, I think there's members of the Democratic Party that are nervous, but I think there's also members of the Democratic Party that are very relieved. And I think there are some that are very upset. 602-277-KTAR. Regardless of where you were before, what's your reaction to the word that Joe has stepped away from the nomination for president? 602-277-5827. We will continue with our live coverage of Joe Biden announcing he is not seeking re-election. He's dropping out effectively after winning the nomination from the primary process, and now we're seeing chaos in the DNC over what happens next. We'll tell you what their roadmap for the next few days, weeks, and months might be, and I'd like to hear your reaction as well. It's Chris Merrill, Joe Huizenga, special coverage, KTAR News.
Tell us about an outstanding teacher worthy of a $2,500 check by texting teacher to 620-620. Pay tribute to a teacher from KTAR News. Presented by Your Valley Toyota dealers. Message and data rates may apply.
The atmosphere over Arizona is just right for the monsoon, generating sudden, severe thunderstorms with high winds, damaging hail, lightning, torrential downpours of rain, and blowing dust, making driving conditions unsafe on any road. Stay alert and stay informed with Arizona's news station covering the monsoon all across the valley. KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
Fentanyl, the most common drug involved in overdose deaths. Here are 5 facts you need to know. It's highly potent, more than heroin or morphine. It's added to pills. You can't see, smell, or taste it. It can be purchased through apps and delivered to your door. Kids who buy pills on social media often use emojis. 4 out of 5 students say their parents never talked with them about fentanyl. Have you? Visit TalkNowAZ.com.
Message brought to you by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and Clear Skin, count me in. With Skyrizi risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
10.
Nice work.
Thanks. Taking Nugenix Total T makes a huge difference for me.
Nugenix, that's the testosterone booster with TV ads with Frank Thomas, right?
Yes.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yes. Nugenix is a great way to feel stronger with more energy and endurance. And as Frank says, you'll like it too.
Text radio to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix. Text RADIO to 321-321. That's radio to 321-321.
Ooh, ma.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
The KTAR News app. It's your portal to a world of Arizona news and information from Arizona's news station. Listen to podcasts, stream KTAR News live, read breaking news stories on the KTAR News app, presented by Rias Air Conditioning. This month's KTAR Community Impact Spotlight focuses on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their support for Phoenix Children's. The Give-a-thon for Phoenix Children's is coming up in August, and this year marks 15 years of Valley Hyundai dealers' participation. In addition to giving from Hyundai USA, every individual Hyundai dealership in the Valley collects money for Give-a-thon to add their support. Over their 15-year association with Give-a-thon, your Valley Hyundai dealers have donated more than $1 million to Phoenix Children's, and they forecast their largest gift ever for 2024. KTAR News is proud to shine the Community Impact Spotlight on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their tremendous giving to Phoenix Children's.
KTAR News now.
KTAR News Time is 1:30. I'm Jonah Harkle.
KTAR Breaking News Alert.
We are getting reactions to the news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Donald Trump on Truth Social says that Biden was not fit to run for president and is not fit to serve. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly has released a statement saying, quote, "It takes great humility to make the difficult decision that President Biden has made to not seek re-election, but that's the Joe Biden I know." Kelly says that he couldn't be more confident that Vice President Kamala Harris is the right person to defeat Donald Trump and lead our country into the future. Democrat Congressman and Senate candidate Ruben Gallego released a statement highlighting the achievements of President Biden. He says the president has consistently worked to make life better for hardworking Americans. Gallego says in the statement he sees Arizona at a crossroads come Election Day. President Joe Biden is recovering from COVID at his Delaware beach house. But what happens to the millions of dollars that were part of his re-election campaign war chest? ABC White House correspondent Karen Travers explains.
It's the Biden-Harris campaign, of course. She has the easiest access to the money if she replaces him and becomes the Democratic nominee. She can take over the committee and automatically get access to that funding, $96 million. The Biden campaign could also transfer all of its cash on hand to the DNC, which could then turn around and use the money to support the eventual nominee. But there are some restrictions on that because of campaign finance rules and coordination.
President Biden once again has announced he is no longer seeking re-election. Biden endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris for the top of the Democratic presidential ticket in a historic turn of events. Democrats now lining up behind the vice president. ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce reports from Washington.
The Congressional Black Caucus chairman releasing the following statement, praising Joe Biden as the ultimate statesman, saying he's dedicated his entire career amid great personal sacrifice and service to the values of democracy, civility, freedom, and opportunity. He is undoubtedly one of the most accomplished presidents in American history. And he goes on to say the Congressional Black Caucus joins President Biden in fully supporting Kamala Harris as our party's nominee.
Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. We do have construction closures going on this weekend. The I-10 westbound is closed between the US 60 and the I-17, that's near Sky Harbor. And in Tempe, the southbound Loop 101 Price Freeway is closed for construction between the Red Mountain Loop 202 and the US 60. And then one more construction closure, this one in Scottsdale. It's the northbound Loop 101 Pima Freeway. It's closed between Raintree Drive and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. We did see quite a bit of slowing in that area yesterday. KTAR weather for the valley this afternoon. It's partly sunny with a high near 109. We do have a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms mainly after 4 p.m. today. It's 106 degrees in Glendale right now. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle on Arizona's news station, KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues with special coverage from Chris and Joe.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right, thank you very much, Chris Merrill, Joe Huizinga. Continuing coverage of Joe Biden's plan to not seek re-election in November. KTAR News on air, online, on the KTAR News app. You'll find us streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So one of the questions we have is what now? What are the possible avenues that the Democratic Party could pursue? And some of the speculation that was going on prior to this morning has been answered. Will Joe Biden make that decision? For a long time, we heard people saying it's up to him, it's up to him, it's up to him. Decision made. If he had said, I'm staying in the race, there would have still been pressure to say, no, you got to drop out. But now that he drops out, we all went, okay, what's next?
Exactly.
Right?
And next is, who's coming up after you, Joe? Is it going to be Vice President Harris? At least for the time being, it seems like that's the direction the campaign will go. I'm sure she'll be out on the campaign trail. But you've got a convention in a month. Do you pick a nominee there, or do you have this virtual roll call vote, which you've been pretty tapped into in terms of, is that going to happen in the next week or so to prevent going to the convention and picking a nominee?
The thing you have to remember is that for a delegate who now they're all released, there are no pledged delegates any longer. They can vote for whomever they please. But in order to have your vote count, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, it's not entirely accurate, but any potential nominee needs to have 300 delegates sign off on their petition to be the nominee.
Okay.
The Democrats have like 4,600 delegates if you count the super delegates.
Wait,
as
you
well.
only need 300?
You only need 300
to be the nominee.
But that means that all delegates, phones are ringing right now, because Kamala Harris wants to get as many of those today as she possibly can. And we're going to find out as the leaks come out who else might be seeking that nomination. And then it'll be curious to see how much there is division. Let's suppose, hypothetically, that Gavin Newsom wants it. Now, he said he would not run against Kamala Harris. They go way back. So this is purely hypothetical. But let's say that Gavin Newsom wants it.
Okay.
He'd be working the phones today, too.
Sure.
And so he's trying to get as many delegates to sign on for him so that he can say, look, I'm a viable candidate. I want my name as in the hat.
What happens if, let's just say, 4 different people from the Democratic side of things get 300 plus delegates?
Then you've got this.
So you've got 4 people heading to the convention.
Open convention, which could potentially be an open roll call convention if they do it virtually as they've been planning.
Okay.
It gets a little bit mucky, but the truth is it's almost a throwback to the way things used to be. Before we had this elongated 2-year campaign and this long primary process, open conventions were kind of the norm in the 1800s, back when candidates had beards, which we haven't seen since I think about the 1800s. And now we've got a candidate with a beard in J.D. Vance. So it's sort of a throwback. It's not impossible, but there's a reason that the parties went to the machines that they have. It felt that it gave them an advantage when it came to marketing and moving forward.
No, they start campaigning now 2 years out.
Yeah,
The
roughly
second
2
they
years
win, they're already campaigning in a way.
So I'm curious about your reaction. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. I'm wondering, are you happy? Are you peeved? Are you nervous? So what does this mean to you? What's your perspective on this? So we'll start in Peoria. Denise, you're first up. Thanks for calling KTAR News. You are the first here in Phoenix to tell us what your reaction is to the news that Joe Biden is not seeking re-election. Denise?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Let me just tell you, my son came running downstairs and said, Mom, did you hear the news? I said, what? When he told me, we were standing, jumping up and down, screaming for joy, saying, oh my gosh, this is awesome. There is a chance again. And the reason I'm so excited, my family is so divided. I've got a son in the Army. I've got another son, ASU graduate, that's an environmental scientist. So you can imagine, I've got a husband who's Republican and another son Democratic. I've been independent for years. I am thrilled. Me and my other son are just jumping up and down, screaming for joy.
And
this gives a chance.
Have you spoken to your son who's in the military?
Yes, and the thing that came out of him, he texted, he said he was very impressed, and that was a big thing to do, to set your ego aside and do something for the people.
Okay. All right. Very good.
He texted me right away.
Very good, Denise. Thank you so much. Love that perspective. Okay, so there you go. Denise says she's been an independent, but she was excited. Obviously, she's not a Trump supporter. I'm garnering this, trying to read between the lines here.
Or at least didn't have faith in Biden.
Could be, right? But certainly she wasn't like thinking, oh, Trump instead.
No,
right?
well, didn't already have her vote locked up.
Yeah. So that's curious. Shoshana, love to hear what you think, too. Your reaction to the news. Go ahead, Shoshana.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's going to be an open convention. First, let me say that I'm an independent.
Okay.
So, and I think the Democrats' best choice for a candidate would be probably Michelle Obama, because she's well known, and a lot of people look up to her.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What
do you say,
Shoshana? I'm not committing myself one way or the other.
Okay. What do you say?
Whoever's going to be has to be committed to our border issues. There are just too many illegals coming over the border, and all the issues that brings.
Yeah.
Shoshana, what would you say if you had to pick somebody who's kind of thrown their name in the hat, who's not Michelle Obama, who's expressed no interest in running to this point?
As for a Democrat, I don't know. I wouldn't vote for Gruesome Newsom, and I wouldn't vote for Hillary, and I wouldn't vote for Kamala. So I don't know who the Democrats could bring forward, somebody who's more moderate rather than liberal. That's always my choice. But you know what?
All right. That'd be like trying to find a Republican who's not a conservative. All right. Very good. Thanks, Shoshana. Appreciate the call. Your thoughts at 602-277 KTAR, 602-277-5827, 602-277-5827. What do they do now? So, one, Biden has to drop out. Done. That happened today. He would have to throw his support behind somebody, potentially. That's Kamala Harris. Okay, done.
Yep, did that today.
So now what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of players saying, we got to get behind Harris, we got to get behind Harris, we got to get behind Harris. I don't know how many people within the party are willing to challenge that vision of unity, because the Democratic Party right now is saying we have to be unified. We have to say Harris is our person, and we got to find somebody who's going to be our VP. Because if this turns into, during the primary process when they're sniping at each other, it kind of sows division, and then the goal is to bring everybody back together. In the same way Nikki Haley spoke at the Republican National Convention, it was to try to bring everybody back under the same tent, right? I don't know that they can afford to split right now.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like there is any Democratic candidate out there right now who guarantees a victory in November?
No.
So if that's the case, how do you leapfrog Vice President Harris?
I don't think you can.
Who is, still part of the Biden-Harris
ticket, the administration.
Who has been there for the last 4 years, part of the administration. She is part of the ticket. How do you justify jumping over her if there's not somebody who you go, you know what? I am positive that based on this person's poll numbers, based on this person's agenda direction, that they would automatically win. How do you, if you're the Democrats, justify
I don't think you do.
leapfrogging her? I don't think you can.
I don't think you do, and I think that's why they're going to try to rally behind her right now. You may have some Dean Phillips types that are going to say, well, I'm going to start seeing if I can still nab this nomination. Remember, he was the only guy running in the primary that anybody ever heard of, and hardly anybody had.
And I'm sure there's some people out there who might say, I like Mark Kelly. I like what he has to say about gun control. Or I like, Gavin Newsom, and I like the direction that I think he could take the country. Or Gretchen Whitmer, she's from a swing state. I think she could sew up Michigan. Other people don't think that's the case. But you're going to see people who say that. But I don't think there's enough people who are going to say, not Kamala.
All right. The Democratic Party has got some real challenges in front of them. We're going to offer up some of those obstacles that they have to overcome. We'll get your thoughts on that as well. Phone number 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. It's all our continuing breaking coverage of the news that Joe Biden will not seek re-election. That is next. KTAR News.
Rosie on the house.
Every Arizona homeowner's best friend for over 30 years. Saturday mornings 8 till 11 on KTAR News 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
This month's KTAR Community Impact Spotlight focuses on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their support for Phoenix Children's. The Give-a-thon for Phoenix Children's is coming up in August, and over their 15-year association with Give-a-thon, your Valley Hyundai dealers have donated more than $1 million to Phoenix Children's, and they forecast their largest gift ever for 2024. KTAR News is proud to shine the Community Impact Spotlight on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their tremendous giving to Phoenix Children's.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older who are residents of the state of Arizona unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Full general contest rules are available in person at the station or at KTAR.com.
President Biden posted in a letter on X that he is no longer running for re-election, saying, quote, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. He says he'll speak to the nation later this week in more detail about his decision. He is currently at his home in Delaware recovering from COVID.
Stay with KTAR News for more on this breaking news story on 92.3 and the KTAR News app. KTAR Breaking News Alert.
KTAR News Time is 1:45. I'm Jonah Harkle. We are getting reactions to the news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly has released a statement saying, quote, it takes great humility to make the difficult decision that President Biden has made to not seek re-election, but that's the Joe Biden I know. Kelly says that he couldn't be more confident that Vice President Kamala Harris is the right person to defeat Donald Trump and lead our country into the future. Mesa Mayor John Giles says that he is proud to work with a president that respects the rule of law. He commends Joe Biden's leadership, bipartisanship, and dedication to this country in his statement. Congressman and Senate candidate Ruben Gallego released a statement highlighting the achievements of President Biden. Gallego says he sees Arizona at a crossroads come Election Day. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues with special coverage from Chris and Joe.
Fentanyl, the most common drug involved in overdose deaths. Here are 5 facts you need to know. It's highly potent, more than heroin or morphine. It's added to pills. You can't see, smell, or taste it. It can be purchased through apps and delivered to your door. Kids who buy pills on social media often use emojis. 4 out of 5 students say their parents never talked with them about fentanyl. Have you? Visit TalkNowAZ.com.
Message brought to you by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona.
Start smart with Arizona's Morning News.
If you own a Dodge Ram, listen up. You might have bought a vehicle that's far worse on the environment than advertised. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays has filed a lawsuit alleging Fiat Chrysler automobiles designed trucks to pass emissions without actually meeting requirements.
Arizona's Morning News, weekday mornings 5 to 8 on Arizona's news station, KTAR News, 92.3 FM, and the KTAR News app.
You're never more than 15 minutes away from today's top news stories. Arizona's breaking news and traffic leader with Arizona's largest radio news team. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
The atmosphere over Arizona is just right for the monsoon, generating sudden, severe thunderstorms with high winds, damaging hail, lightning, torrential downpours of rain, and blowing dust, making driving conditions unsafe on any road.
Blowing dust advisories, flash flood warnings, and some pretty severe weather.
Stay alert and stay informed with Arizona's news station, KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app. The KTAR News app. It's your portal to a world of Arizona news and information from Arizona's news station. Listen to podcasts, stream KTAR News live, read breaking news stories on the KTAR News app. Presented by Rias Air Conditioning.
Tell us about an outstanding teacher worthy of a $2,500 check by texting teacher to 620-620. Pay tribute to a teacher from KTAR News. Presented by Your Valley Toyota dealers. Message and data rates may apply.
A KTAR News special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
Chris Merrill, Joe Huizenga, KTAR News on the KTAR News app, online, on air. You'll find us streaming on YouTube and Facebook as well. So the question is, what is your reaction now to finding out that Joe Biden is not going to seek re-election in 2024? I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. You're happy about this? You nervous about this? You upset about this? Give me those emotions. What are they? 602-277-KTAR, 602-277-5827. And I got to believe there's going to be some obstacles starting right now. Joe, you and I did a hypothetical segment on Friday on our show, which airs every day from 2 o'clock until 4. And we said, why might it be better for the Democrats to not have Joe drop out? Neither one of us felt that was going to be the case, but we were playing devil's advocate. Mm-hmm. And I think what we ended up doing is creating a list of things that they now have to overcome today, starting right now. And
what were some of those things that we had on there? I'm trying to recall. I know one of them was just, you open up a lot of questions.
Yeah, logistics was a big one. In fact, I just had a friend that said, save all of your Biden-Harris campaign stuff because campaign 2024, it's now a collector's item. Think of all the yard signs that are coming down today, the billboards that are coming down today, the radio commercials that have to be recut.
Radio, TV, social.
And not just for the Biden-Harris campaign. But, I mean, we even had, we heard somebody mention, I think we were playing an Eli Crane commercial where he mentioned Biden, right? And all of a sudden that means even down ballot that was running against top of ticket, which we hear all the time. Stop Biden's assault on the border, elect Mark Lamb, for instance, right? Now he has to kind of change that. Carrie Lake would have to change her stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things change all of a sudden.
No doubt about it.
Okay.
I'm just sorry. I'm coordinating with our control room in there right now, seeing if we're all set to go to a guest here. I think we need another minute or two.
No, we're good.
Here.
He said we're all set here. We can talk with Dr. Mike O'Neill.
So, Dr. Mike O'Neill, our political analyst. Mike, just throwing it to you right now. 10:45 this morning, we hear that that President Biden is going to step aside. Your gut reaction? What went through your head?
Well, not completely surprised, because there's been a couple of weeks when this has been widely speculated with a lot of good reason. I've watched over a period of days as significant Democrats, apparently, mostly privately, urged him to get out, that he was not helping Democrats on the overall ticket and had a dubious electability. So, at the same time, I was aware that this is something that is completely his decision. He legally did not have to do it. There would have been a lot of upset Democrats if he didn't get out. Because he would, as the polls showed, not only the polls, but that he would probably lose, not only because of the polls, but because of the complete absorption of the media with the issue of his age and assorted afflictions, and it took all the air out of the room and nothing else was being discussed. And when that happens, you're dead. And that was the situation. And it wasn't clear at all how that could get turned around. And that absence of the ability to turn the issue around, I think, made him just an extremely weak candidate, and it made, some people will say it was inevitable. I think that's an overstatement of it, but it created a very strong case for him getting out of the race.
Dr. Mike O'Neill is our KTAR political analyst joining us right now. Dr. O'Neill, is there there a clear replacement? I mean, Biden says Harris is the right person. Would anybody challenge that, or are we likely to see a contested convention?
There are multiple questions in there, and I have a nuanced answer. I think she is, if there's anybody who is the obvious choice, it is her. There will be an argument that's made, let's have an open process and a somewhat democratic process. You can't have a complete democracy. You're not going to rerun the primaries. But to have a more open process, I will look at several key Democrats, the ones who have been cited as potential alternative candidates, Governor Whitmer, Governor Newsom, Governor Shapiro, maybe Mark Kelly, who was started to mention in the last few days. If all of them jumped out and endorsed Harris, then I think it's all over and the nomination is hers. If it goes to a competitive process, I think she's still the leading candidate. She's the vice president. She's on the ticket. All that money that went to Biden-Harris is now hers. So there's a pretty compelling reason there with all of those reasons. And I think even if it were contested, she would be the leading, though not necessarily inevitable candidate.
Our political analyst, Mike O'Neill, thank you so much for jumping on with us for a couple minutes here this weekend. We appreciate you reacting to the breaking news that President Biden not going to continue his reelection campaign. Thanks so much, Mike.
You're welcome.
Love to hear from Anna. She's in Mesa. She calls us at 602-277-KTAR. Anna, what is your reaction to the news today that Joe Biden will not be seeking re-election?
My reaction is I am extremely excited, and I thank Joe Biden for doing the right thing, because that was Joe Biden, and that was his character. I'm glad he did it. Now the Democrats can come together and unite behind Kamala Harris. The cherry on the top of the cake, if they go with Mark Kelly from Arizona, I would be more excited to see that. I'd like to see a twin for ones on the ticket, an identical twin for ones on the ticket. I mean, I am excited.
All right. Anna from Mesa. Thank you so much, Anna. Great to talk to you. Mark Kelly on that ticket, how much of a chance is there on that one? Like, I see that as being a maybe.
Do you think there's anybody who's a shoo-in?
No.
I think he's got as good a shot as any right now.
It's going to sound chauvinistic, but I don't think they want to run two women on a ticket. I mean, we've yet to have a female president. That's been a challenge for this country. I don't think they want to run two women on a ticket. So I don't think it's going to be Whitmer out of Michigan or Klobuchar or somebody else, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Mark Kelly clicks a lot of boxes. Astronauts, they get American hero status. Married to Gabby Giffords, obviously that's going to bring the gun issue back to the front and center, and it's going to be very difficult for the Republicans to pivot out of that when their candidate just got shot, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's name recognition. I mean, he's got it. So there's a lot of upside to Mark Kelly.
But I don't think
and swing state.
You just said why I don't think he moves the needle.
Okay.
Being here in Arizona, having known Mark Kelly for years, I don't think he locks up Arizona for your ticket just because he is a senator here in Arizona.
I don't disagree. Talk to me. Let's talk to Kathy. Kathy, great to hear from you. Thanks for calling 602-277-KTAR. What's your reaction, Kathy?
Hi there. Well, I should tell you I'm an independent. I was a lifelong Republican until about 2016, and now I am an independent, and I am very happy that this happened. I didn't think we really had a chance against Trump with Biden, and I was very sad. I watched Trump with the convention, and I was really hoping he did have some kind of a change, unity message, something. And as soon as he went off script after 15 minutes into his speech on Thursday, I knew we were going to have the same old garbage for 4 more years, and I just couldn't stomach that. So this at least gives me some hope that we have some form of chance against 4 more years of Trump.
All right, Kathy, thank you so much. Appreciate the heads up on that one. I think there are a lot of Democrats feeling that way right now because Joe Biden was. You and I have had off-air conversations. I don't mean to out you, and I'm sorry.
Go for it.
But after the debate, you said, I don't know how I could vote for that guy. You were undecided, to be fair.
I'm still undecided. I sit there. I don't love Trump. I don't love Biden. I'm firmly in the camp of both these guys are old. I don't love the direction the country has went under either of them. But I sit here today, and And if it's Harris, I still feel the same kind of way. I feel like she is just Joe Biden under a different name. I'm not sitting here, like Kathy, who we just had on, going, oh, this is great news for me as an independent voter. I still feel like, no, this doesn't do a lot for me. But go on.
What would an independent voter have to see to say this is great news? Because if you're an independent voter, chances are there isn't anybody who's going to appeal to the party masses that you're going to be excited about. Isn't that kind of a characteristic of independence?
Just for myself, I would love to see somebody who is more of an outsider, more of a fresh voice. And I don't feel like Newsom, Kelly, Whitmer, any of those names bring that to the Democratic side.
That's
or
the
Harris.
catch-22. To climb the ladder, you got to be the insider, right?
Yep.
All right, breaking news coverage of Biden dropping out of the presidential race continues. We'll be joined by our weekday afternoon host from Outspoken, Bruce St. James and Gatos next, KTAR News.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
KTAR-FM, Glendale, Phoenix.
Texting enrolls you in a reoccurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
10. Nice work. Thanks. Taking Nugenix Total T makes a huge difference for me.
Nugenix? That's the testosterone booster with TV ads with Frank Thomas, right?
Yes.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yes. Nugenix is a great way to feel stronger with more energy and endurance. And as Frank says, you'll like it too.
Text radio to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix. Text RADIO to 321-321. That's radio to 321-321.
Ooh, ma.
What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
From ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. It's only been about 3 hours since President Biden ended his re-election campaign and endorsed Vice President Harris to be the Democratic presidential nominee. And already, a bunch of senators and donors announced they're backing Harris while praising Mr. Biden, his record, and decision. Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut Democrat.
I'm very excited about our party and the country coming together behind President Biden's successor. We have a deep bench. Kamala Harris is at the top of my list.
Endorsing Harris, Senators Klobuchar of Minnesota, Kaine and Warner of Virginia, Kelly from Arizona, Warren of Massachusetts, Coons of Delaware. On Harris's reaction, ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
She says, I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Others within the party falling in line, but they also don't want to make it look and appear to voters that this is somehow a coronation at all, because obviously this is up to the delegates.
Swift reaction from Republicans and Donald Trump, who writes that, quote, Joe Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve. Republican House Speaker Johnson suggesting to CNN,
if he's incapable of running for president, how is he capable of governing?
Mr. Biden saying he will finish his term. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
Donald Trump attacking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We know from our sources that the Trump team has been building a book to take on Kamala Harris, attack her for some of her past statements, and do everything they can to tie her to Joe Biden.
ABC's John Santucci. Praising President Biden, the AFL-CIO calling him the biggest champion of workers ever in the White House. And the International Association of Firefighters saying President Biden's work ensured families of fallen firefighters receive the benefits they deserve. You're listening to ABC News.
Arizona's news station. KTAR. On air, 92.3 FM. Online at KTAR.com. And streaming live on the KTAR News app. Your breaking news and traffic now.
Jonah Harkle. New this afternoon to the KTAR News Center, President Biden is no longer running for a second term as president. He made the announcement today in a statement on X. This comes after multiple Democratic lawmakers and donors called for him to leave the presidential race, including several Arizona politicians, including Congressman Greg Stanton and U.S. Representative Rahul Grijalva. Concern grew after Biden struggled during the June debate against Donald Trump. Once again, breaking today, President Biden has announced he is no longer running for president. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com. We're hearing plenty of reaction from elected leaders in Arizona to President Joe Biden's decision to end his re-election campaign. Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs calls the president the embodiment of a public servant, saying he has led with selflessness and unparalleled integrity. She goes on to say she looks forward to continuing Arizona's partnership with the Biden administration for the final months of his term. Democratic Congressman and candidate for U.S. Senate Ruben Gallego says the president consistently worked to make life better for hardworking Americans. He goes on to say Arizona is at a crossroads as we look to Election Day. On the other side of the aisle, Republican and Mayor of Mesa, John Giles, says he is proud to work with a president who respects the rule of law, adding that while they don't agree on all issues, he never doubted the president's commitment to defending the Constitution. A different tone from Republican Congressman Paul Gosar, who accuses Democrats of rigging their own election and forcing the president to quit, describing what he calls the Democratic coup as complete. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Continue to watch for those construction closures. The I-10 westbound is closed between the US 60 and I-17. This is near Sky Harbor. In Tempe, the southbound Loop 101 Price Freeway is closed for construction between the Red Mountain Loop 202 and US 60. And then in Scottsdale, this is probably the worst one, causing the worst backup. It's the northbound Loop 101 Pima Freeway. It's closed between Raintree Drive and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. KTAR weather for the valley this afternoon. It's sunny, and then it becomes partly cloudy with a high near 109. There's still a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 4 p.m. It's 106 degrees in Phoenix. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle for KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues with special coverage from Chris and Joe.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
Chris Merrill, Joe Huizenga, Bruce St. James, Larry Gatos. It is a room full of hot air. I think we can say that, and it's just as well that the room is padded. The breaking news, as you just heard Jonah talking about, is that, of course, Joe Biden saying in a statement, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and country for me to stand down." A letter that he released on social media because 2024. Why not call somebody? Bruce, let me ask you, why not call somebody? I mean, why not say, listen, gather people up? I know he's got COVID, so maybe he has to do it from behind plexiglass, but,
the fireside chat or something, sitting in the Oval Office.
Sure, something of that sort. Why not do that? Use a webcam, for Pete's sake. There seems like there could have been something done. Instead, it's a letter on social media.
I wonder if that has something to do with his attitude of, did he step or was he pushed? And if he was pushed, as it appears, there was a lot of pressure, and it had been ramping up now for weeks and getting really bad the last couple of days. Is there a little bitterness in there?
Yeah, and I think,
do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And it would come through in a face-to-face.
Joe and I discussed that if he had said, "I am staying in," then it would have been like, well, is Joe going to stay in? But now that he says, "I'm out," and it says, well, he's out. Who's next?
Moving on.
I mean, you're not the guy anymore, too, Chris. Don't you want it not to be about you? Isn't the best way to go just a statement and you move on? If you sit there and you do go on video and you do speak to the public, don't they sit there and go, why are you doing this? Why aren't you just handing off the baton? Isn't the best way to go
And you
quiet?
stuttered, and you said the wrong name,
Well, if it were Joe Huizenga, or if it were Gatos, or if it were Bruce, or if it were Chris, then the answer is yes. But when you're the president of the United States, people want to hear from you. I mean,
he is going to speak
job is
apparently later this week, and I Tuesday or Wednesday there will be some sort of address to the nation where I suppose he'll go into a little more detail with this.
Maybe
you forced me to do this. I'm going to do it on my own way. I'm not going to tell certain people. We hear he didn't tell Kamala Harris anything.
Yeah, he learned today.
Yeah, I don't buy that. You know, he decided by 1:45 Eastern time. Okay, I'm done, and then I'm going to send this out at 1:46. That's horse crap. It was over a week ago. This guy knew he was going to leave. The writing was on the wall. He was definitely forced out. He did not want to leave. And this is his way of saying, all right, you want me to leave? Okay, I'm just going to put this letter out. And when I'm feeling better, I might talk to the nation. But if you want me to leave, okay, I'm out.
I think part of it is there was a realization or a political awakening that happened when you have this steady stream of Democrats coming into Rehoboth, where he is, or coming out. And maybe, this is that inner circle, that bubble that the president lives in, all presidents live in, got pierced with a little bit of reality, where they started coming to him saying, this isn't about you anymore. You're hurting all the other D's down ballot. Mm-hmm. And was that the tipping point where he went, okay, hey, I'll lose on my own, but if do I have to drag everybody down with me?
Well, and think of it this way. His own party fired him. That's what happened. They fired him. They didn't want him. They said, you can't win. You're too old. The debate was a disaster. Your interviews afterwards, disaster. You're calling, people Putin who you shouldn't call. Don't call Zelensky Putin. You're calling the Vice President Trump. So listen, the Democrats fired him today, and sure, that's going to hurt. He's got an ego. He's a president. He's a politician. And so I'm not really surprised that this is how he went. I'm going to release a letter. I'm not going to talk to anybody yet.
A little salty.
And I guess he has every right to be.
Doesn't it show you how anemic his campaign is, though, if his exit really was a surprise to some in his camp? And
well, again, I think it shows
what disarray is going on there.
I think it shows, again, the level of, I don't know, just naivete, denialism, that they were living in, because the reality is that this election in the last month has turned into a referendum on Joe Biden's age, his health, and his mental acuity.
But that's on Joe Biden.
And none of that was going to change in the next 108 days before the election. Yeah. If they didn't understand that, they were literally the only people that did. This wasn't about jobs numbers. This wasn't about NATO. This wasn't about anything else. It was about him. And he was going to lose that argument and that debate because he was unable to change that narrative.
It's not about policy. It's about
nobody cares about
can
policy.
You answer a simple question? And the answer is no. Anyway, how many times have we heard that, guys? Yeah. He starts to speak, and I mean, I think we should all feel a little bit sad too. I mean, our president is not all there right now. It's a very scary thing, to be honest. I don't know who's running the White House. Jill, I don't know. Kamala, that scares me too. But he would get into a sentence and he would start and. Anyway,
it was
and you trail off or completely change subjects multiple times.
He can bear. I don't think he should be. I mean, really, he'd have to go see a doctor. They'd have to say, listen, you're going down this road, and maybe you have this, maybe you have that, and then he has to get out. But don't think that the Republicans might go after him and say, yeah, if you can't run.
Oh, they already have.
Oh, I know. If you can't run, then you need to get out. I mean, wouldn't they love to push Joe Biden out?
Yeah, Speaker of the House said that already.
Because it's war.
Gatos and Bruce St. James, along with Joe Huizenga and I'm Chris Merrill, as we do ongoing coverage now of Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Let me throw this out here.
Okay.
Is there value? Thank you. I'm just previewing what I'm about to do. Is there value to a candidate who's currently in a race throwing their support behind Kamala Harris or somebody else? And I'll give you the example. Ruben Gallego just put out his statement. He was praising President Biden, and he said, as we look to Election Day, Arizona is at a crossroads, protecting abortion rights, lowering the cost of everyday essentials, securing our water future, taking care of our veterans. All of this is on the line. That's why we'll spend the next 107 days laser focused on defeating Carrie Lake and her dangerous plans to ban abortion, endanger our seniors' Medicare, and hurt Arizona families. In other words,
he's not. So he's not endorsing.
No mention of Harris.
None.
So I think what you see with Ruben Gallego, and not unique to politicians, is at least if everybody with a D next to their name has their finger in the air right now, which way's the wind blowing?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be on the wrong team.
That's why
I don't want to jump in too early and then all of a sudden I'm X'd out of whatever.
I don't think that's what it's about. I think that if Ruben Gallego came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, guys like me who are independents would say, I guess you forgot she was in charge of the border. How did that work? He can't endorse her. Hurts his candidacy. Can't endorse her.
So don't.
If she's the nominee, he has to.
I don't know about that.
But you feel like it's safe for a Mark Kelly, who came out and said he couldn't be more confident.
He's not running for re-election.
Right, that vice president, he's got cover for at least a couple more years.
If Ruben Gallego came out and said, I'm all for Kamala Harris, there would be some independents who don't like Carrie Lake and might be voting for Ruben Gallego to say, yeah, that border czar thing was a joke. She did zero. And you think that she should be the next president? It would not be good for him. He should not even mention her.
Is there a little bit of acceptance, though, that he's the Democratic nominee, and so it's
Gallego?
Gallego, I mean, right. And so obviously he's going to support the Democratic nominee.
He has to support whoever the nominee is.
He doesn't have to come out and endorse her right now, though.
But not right now.
No
okay.
way.
So there may be value in just kind of, as Bruce, you put it, putting your finger in the wind and sort of
just
seeing which way the wind is blowing.
But it's like how many people were glomming on to Joe Biden? Oh, I can't wait to have Joe Biden come and speak with me at my campaign event.
Nobody.
No, nobody wanted that.
No.
So
great
we'll
point.
see. We'll see if people are going to want Kamala Harris, if she is the one to come out and speak. But I can't imagine that being the case. It depends where you are. In Arizona, she's not popular.
No, I know she's not. So that brings us to the next question, which is, who are the front runners then? You got to be wondering, now that Joe's done, who's going to step up. So we'll see if you...
If anyone.
We'll see. Well, somebody's going to have to, right?
I don't know.
Somebody's going to be at least a sacrificial lamb or a useful
fair
idiot,
enough. Yeah.
right?
Okay, so you think that? Well, we all know that Kamala's running, but
Yes.
I think I wonder if they're just going to be like, hey, no one else can do this. Oh, you want to run? Nah, you're not going to do that.
Could
you're
be.
You're going to come. You're going to fall in line.
We'll give you time to debate that, and we'll see if you even recognize some of the names that are being tossed out, because that is next on our breaking coverage of Joe Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race. KTAR News.
KTAR Breaking News Alert.
KTAR News Time is 2:14. I'm Jonah Harkle. We are getting reactions to the news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton says President Biden put the future of the country first with his decision. Despite his earlier call for Biden to leave the race, Stanton says the president will go down as one of the most effective chief executives of the modern era. In a statement, Arizona House Democrats say the recovery of the country under President Joe Biden over the last 3.5 years has been nothing short of extraordinary, with Arizona a prime beneficiary of an increased focus on manufacturing, high-tech job creation, and infrastructure investment. On the other side of the aisle, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs says the president's decision not to run for re-election affirms what the world has known for years, that he is not mentally fit to be president. Once again, breaking today, President Biden has announced he is no longer running for president this year. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
Chris Merrill, Joe Huizinga, Larry Gatos, and Bruce St. James. Bruce and Gatos from the Outspoken program, Chris and Joe from the eponymous program that airs every day here on KTAR. Continuing coverage of Joe Biden saying that he is not running for re-election. So who could potentially replace Joe Biden atop the ticket?
You've got some names?
I do.
What do we got?
Let's see who you've heard of. All right?
You're not really going to try to test this. Are you?
Let's go.
Listen, it's to...
Just say the last name then.
It's to make the point that nobody knows who these people are.
Right.
Okay. So first name up, Harris. We know that one.
Yeah.
Vice President. Okay.
This is it's like a American government class, civics class.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is because I think it's
name recognition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Newsom.
Gavin.
No way.
We all know Gavin, but you don't know him. You don't know who that is?
I know he is.
You know, okay. All right, so Gavin Newsom. And
Governor
you say-
of California.
But you say
I
no
say
chance.
no because of the electoral map, that he's not needed. Bringing California's electoral votes is already in the D column. Nothing's going to change it. And Democrats need to do something to change the electoral count.
They need Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Or Michigan.
Or Michigan.
Or Carolina.
They really need those three Midwestern states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan.
Yeah, they're calling it the blue wall.
Well, and Chris, you've said that Newsom really wants to run for 28
I
and
think that's
doesn't
his
want to
plan.
burn his chance now.
I agree.
All right. Whitmer. Do you know that name?
Sure.
Governor of Michigan.
Correct.
She's almost assassinated.
She's
yeah, they were going to kidnap her and take her to a cabin and put her on trial on YouTube.
again, take Michigan off the map.
But does that bring votes in from Wisconsin or from Pennsylvania to help shore up the North Wall?
Probably doesn't hurt.
Probably doesn't hurt.
I don't think she shores up Michigan.
I don't think she
I don't
wants
think so
it. I don't think she wants to be the VP.
I don't think she wants to be second.
I don't know that she wants to burn her chances right now. Because
Okay,
one of the
okay.
things is I feel like if you get blown out in 24, that might be your only shot. Okay. J.B. Pritzker.
Governor of Illinois.
This is good. You're
One of
very
the-
so far. Your
one of
Trivial
the-
Pursuit pie is full.
One
This is
of
good.
the richest men in America.
I don't know how. I don't think people know who he is.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
he's
so
got
either.
the kind of money that he could tell you pretty damn quick.
All right. Andy Bashir.
Governor of Kentucky.
This is good.
Wow. I've heard the names. I couldn't tell you where they're from.
Yeah.
I believe didn't he do? He did a pretty good job during the tornadoes.
He did.
Oh.
And I thought that he was.
He's popular. I know that.
Yeah.
For a Democratic governor, he's very popular.
In a southern state.
Yeah.
Right?
But again, name recognition, not
Very
good.
minimal. All right. Wes Moore.
Governor of Minnesota.
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah,
Why did I say
close.
Maryland? Yeah.
That's right.
He's one of my favorites.
He's
just as a
young.
person.
He's a rising star, right?
He's got a military background.
Yep.
And he is a pretty moderate guy.
Is there a chance he gets a nomination?
No.
I'm not sure if you have more here, but before we
Go ahead.
I know you just mentioned
That's okay.
Wes Moore. How do you conduct a charisma test in the next 3 weeks to a month to determine who has the
I'll answer it.
machismo
I'll
to
answer.
pull in independence?
Well, I answer. You got to have. I think you got to put 4 Democrats on stage in the next every single week up until the Democratic National Convention. I think you turn this into somewhat of a reality
Like
show.
Debate Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 7, we're having a debate.
Who wants to run? Show up. Let's get the 4 best. Put them on stage.
Oprah will moderate first week's
How about
debate.
this? Obama.
Wow.
Bill Clinton
moderate.
can moderate the next one.
Oprah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what you should do. And I worry that that's not going to be the case. They're just going to hand it to Harris because Harris is a lousy pick.
I think you're right, and I agree with you. I think in today's society, we love the reality TV. If there's anything that would upset Trump more than anything, it would be losing ratings to must-see TV
Must-see
every
TV.
Wednesday.
Well,
I got to see this.
We're going to find out.
this
Does this
showdown.
make the Democratic National Convention must-see TV as opposed to a infomercial like conventions
planning.
normally are, where it's already predetermined everything? Would they go into this not knowing who's coming out of it?
Well, and we still don't know if they're going to follow through on that virtual roll call, which has got a lot of people wondering, are they going to try to shore this all up early?
They got to postpone that.
They got to punt that one?
You got to punt.
All right.
You got to make it intriguing for the American people. You know, you just benched the president. You forced him to the bench. You fired him.
So it's at Hunger Games then?
Yes.
I mean,
think
you
so.
say that.
I think making, for lack of better terms, a spectacle, not in a negative way, out of it. Doesn't that benefit them? We just talked about
I
how
don't think so.
low name recognition. They don't know who some of these people are. How do you get people to pay attention?
We want to see that as spectators. But if you're the Democratic Party, don't you sit there and go, "Wow, this could create a lot of division. This could create a lot of camps." And then you've got 4 or 5 different camps who line up. And do you really all get behind a candidate in the end?
You have to. If you hand it to Harris, it looks bad. She's part of the cover-up. Biden's fine. I'm with him all the time. He's cognitively fine. She lied. A lot of people lied. If you just
Or
hand
she
it to
didn't
her.
know.
Oh, please. Of course
There's a
she
lot
knew.
of people out there who say that Biden was kept away from a lot of his own cabinet. The
He
people
didn't even meet
know.
with the cabinet
Doesn't
since,
matter.
was it November
You
or
know.
something?
Listen, we know. We're not in D.C., and we knew. I knew a year ago that he wasn't going to be in this race. I said it a year ago. He's not going to be in this race. Look at him speak. And all he did was get worse and worse and worse and worse every day. This doesn't surprise me at all. He's not in this race. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
I'm still thinking about the execution of
It'd be interesting.
Of the reality debates, Hunger Games.
Why not
situation.
Why not do 4 town halls?
I think that's how you build your
go
momentum.
Go to the east. Yeah. Go to the southwest.
Great idea.
Go
around the country.
Yeah.
Do you do it like American Idol and you have people phone in their votes at the end of the debate?
Fantastic. Well, no, because
you can't make a joke of it.
This
right?
is the reality.
I agree, but
you
I
can't
mean,
make like it's
but
got
it has to be a production.
So
right?
Chris,
but it's got to be legitimate. Where the like tough questions by some big time,
Obama, I like that.
Obama or something like that is asking these 4, and the American people are like, all right, I really don't know about these 4, but is one of those better than Trump?
Well, so here's there's a reality to all this, and I'm far from an expert, but the delegates, the Democratic delegates, have already been elected. They are Biden delegates. He will release them. Those are the only people that candidates are marketing to, because they are going to be the ones. The delegates are going to be the ones who choose the next. Nobody else.
Right.
I don't remember the number of it.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. If that is the case,
that's
obviously
the reality.
Those are the facts.
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess I go back. Well, then why would we do what I said? Why would we have my idea?
So that they could market their candidate. Market their candidate.
Because I'm starting to think, well, if that's the case and they already know they're going to pick somebody, then why go through what I think is a brilliant idea by me?
Yes, you came up with
Put them on TV.
I think
pit them against each other.
I think
Let's see how tough Harris really is. Let's see if she can't giggle for 5 seconds. Let's see it.
It is a great idea if you have a gentleman's agreement that after it's all done, you unite behind
everybody
shakes
hands, high fives, and moves on.
You don't have a choice. And it has to be that way. And
politics is ugly. You always have a choice.
I think it'll be that way. Will it be if they did that? Would it be contentious and would people, go at it on stage? Yeah, but at the end, hey, it's either we shake hands now or hand Trump the presidency.
Now, who's willing to do that? Because so far, everybody, the names that I just gave you, and there's others: Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Josh Shapiro. That's the governor of Pennsylvania. I don't know that he gets you Wisconsin, but it gets you. Might get you Pennsylvania. And Raphael Warnock of Georgia. Jared Polis from anybody?
Nope.
Yeah, right. Colorado. Obviously, nobody's going to know that. And Governor Roy Cooper, North Carolina, another swing state. I don't know if North Carolina.
So here's something interesting about all these names: governors and or senators in this group. If any of them are in a state where, if they resign to run or are elected, that they aren't replaced by another Democrat, they're off the list.
Oh, that's a great point. Depending on how the state
There's
decides,
no way the D's are going to take a
are.
chance of losing the Senate by picking a senator. So Arizona's a great example. If Senator Kelly says he's the vice president,
right?
Then Katie Hobbs picks his replacement.
Yes,
do you see what I'm saying?
I do. But if you are a senator in a state with a Republican
you
governor,
do not give up that seat.
Because that changes the balance of the Senate.
Yeah.
So we definitely know that, Mark Kelly was being talked about at the top of the ticket. And now that he's come out and endorsed Harris, obviously he's no longer the top of the ticket. He's not somebody that would go and be in that town hall. He's already endorsed Harris. If you've endorsed Harris, you can't go against.
You're not
Harris
running against
in a town hall.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so
I would think so.
He's.
But House of Cards works funny. I don't know how it works.
At very best, he's a vice presidential candidate now, and apparently she really likes him.
And maybe that's why he came out early to endorse her, so that he could be on that.
Maybe this is the ticket they've been thinking about for a month.
Could be. We got a statement from the Arizona GOP.
Oh,
here's what they say.
Now, who's in charge of that? Who are we getting?
Gina Swoboda, from the chair. Gina Swoboda of the Arizona Republican Party says the disastrous policies of the Biden-Harris administration have failed the American people on every level.
So she's trying something new.
The same stuff, right?
Yeah, same crap. Right?
The working middle class was absolutely decimated. Gas prices, blah, blah, blah. Kamala Harris has failed to execute a single task in her czar portfolio and did not earn a single vote in any primary in 2020 or 2024. Regardless of who Democrats select for the top of their ticket, they will lose. The American people need hope, and Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance will restore opportunity and bring back American greatness. Arizona Republican Party remains committed to advocating for policies that support American families, so on and so forth. And to your point, Gatos,
well, it's just the same stuff from Republicans. If Donald Trump was the guy who was dropping out today, it'd be the same garbage from the Democrats.
Of course.
So.
Yeah. All right, so they're just shifting the names. They took out the boilerplate language and they just shifted the names on that.
Listen, this could be a little bit of the dog catching the car for Republicans. I think they were feeling pretty confident after last week, running against Joe Biden, taking a look at where all of the polling data was.
Trump getting shot helped them.
Yeah, looking at that was like a year ago, right?
Trump getting shot.
Remember when that was going to change the campaign?
Well, I mean, he looked as tough as anybody who gets shot on stage. Let's be honest.
I agree.
That guy looked like a freaking warrior up there. You don't have to love
Pop up and raise your fist.
That's pretty good stuff.
But this changes the calculation. It has to.
I think you throw all the polls out. I don't know who's leading now. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I think all the polls get thrown out.
I agree. Some of the polling is, since it was all hypothetical up until now it's a potential reality. I think the polls, they changed their tenor. I think the answers changed for some people, right?
I think for some people, I mean, like if you're a Trump supporter and then he got shot and put his hand up and got the picture, you love him more. But, what about the people who don't like Donald Trump but they like some of his policies? They don't like him. And they're like, hey, give me somebody else. Give me maybe Harris should have a Republican vice president.
I don't hate that idea.
I don't hate that idea at all. Let's make some history.
There's a number in there, too. And this is my question. Biden's floor has been about 45%. As horrible as you think he is.
I heard you say this yesterday.
45%. Does any of these other people we're talking about, from Harris on down, all they got to do is get about 3% more than Biden got on his floor. But will they lose anybody? Or are those kind of the never Trump crowd?
Who lose anybody? Will the Democrats lose?
Harris,
I don't think so.
Whitmer, will it go below 45?
No.
I don't know.
I think it could go up.
I think it can only go up.
And really, you have to look at the states like we talked about, Arizona and Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. I mean, whoever the vice president candidate's going to be, it's got to be from one of those 4 or 5. It has to be. You got to try and steal one of those states.
We'll expound upon that, and then we'll talk about timing with our KTAR political analyst, Dr. Mike O'Neill, joins us next, because paradoxically, it seems like everybody knew that Biden was going to drop out, and also nobody knew if he was going to drop out. What went into the timing of today's announcement? That's next as part of our continuing breaking coverage, KTAR News.
Fentanyl, the most common drug involved in overdose deaths. Here are 5 facts you need to know. It's highly potent, more than heroin or morphine. It's added to pills. You can't see, smell, or taste it. It can be purchased through apps and delivered to your door. Kids who buy pills on social media often use emojis. 4 out of 5 students say their parents never talked with them about fentanyl. Have you? Visit TalkNowAZ.com.
Message brought to you by the Substance Abuse Coalition Leaders of Arizona. My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
10. Nice work.
Thanks. Taking Nugenix Total T makes a huge difference for me.
Nugenix? That's the testosterone booster with TV ads with Frank Thomas, right?
Yes.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yes. Nugenix is a great way to feel stronger with more energy and endurance. And as Frank says, you'll like it too.
Text radio to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix. Text RADIO to 321-321. That's radio to 321-321.
Ooh, ma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
KTAR News now.
Hello, everyone. KTAR News Time is 2:31. I'm Jonah Harkle. We're hearing plenty of response from elected leaders in Arizona after President Joe Biden announced his decision not to seek re-election. Democrat Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, who has been mentioned as a possible presidential candidate in recent days, says it took great humility for the president to make the difficult decision to end his campaign. On the other side of the aisle, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs says the president's decision not to run for re-election affirms what the world has known for years, that he is not mentally fit to be president. And no major surprise, that's the word from KTAR political analyst Mike O'Neill, who was expecting President Joe Biden to ultimately end his re-election campaign. As for what comes next,
I will look at several key Democrats, the ones who have been cited as potential alternative candidates: Governor Whitmer, Governor Newsom, Governor Shapiro, maybe Mark Kelly, who was started to mention in the last few days. If all of them jumped out and endorsed Harris, then I think it's all over and the nomination is hers.
Even if the Democratic presidential nomination is contested, O'Neill describes the vice president as the leading candidate. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Continue to watch for those construction closures on the I-10 westbound. It's closed between the US 60 and the I-17 near Sky Harbor. In Tempe, the southbound Loop 101 Price Freeway is closed for construction between the Red Mountain Loop 202 and the US 60. And then the worst one in Scottsdale, the northbound Loop 101 Pima Freeway is closed and causing lots of backup between Raintree Drive and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. It's 106 degrees in Glendale right now. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle on Arizona's news station, KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues with special coverage from Chris and Joe.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right, Chris Merrill, Joe Huizenga in studio. We've got Larry Gatos and Bruce St. James from our afternoon drive program called Outspoken. You'll catch them every day at 4 o'clock. Joe and myself every day at 2 on KTAR. Our continuing breaking news coverage on air, online, on the KTAR News app, as President Biden says he is not running for re-election. Joining us right now is our KTAR political analyst, Dr. Mike O'Neill. And Mike, thanks for sticking with us here this afternoon. We appreciate that. It seems paradoxical that everyone seems to have known Biden was going to eventually drop out, but also nobody knew that Biden was going to drop out. And then he does it today. What we're being told is behind the scenes, nobody knew until a minute before he announced it on social media.
Oh, please.
So, God bless you. So, Mike, what does the timing mean? Is there anything that we could read into the timing?
I wouldn't be inclined not to. Once you, a decision like this, sort of once you make the decision, I think you might as well. It's just personal and emotional. You want to get it out. I don't believe that nobody heard about it until a minute before, but I will bet you that it was kept extremely close to the vest. And here's the reason. If there was a credible leak from the Biden White House that he was seriously considering dropping out of the race, he'd almost have to do it at that point. So I suspect it was just family, maybe one or two really close advisors, because up until that moment, you can use your advisors to solicit advice, but keep things close to the vest. Once they leak out, that becomes a fact in and of itself.
Is it Harris 100%, or a voter like me, an independent? I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump. I don't like Harris either. But I don't like any politicians.
I was going to say,
they don't like me either.
Right now, your
You're
opinion
consistent.
Is,
I'll give you that.
Are we going to see a few people run against her? Because, I don't want this just handed to her. And I think that would hurt her if it was just handed to her. Are we going to see anybody else say, I'll run against her?
You persuasively argue one of two very viable sides out there. The other side says this would get messy. She already was a part of the ticket. This would move her to the top part, and she's earned it. And besides, do you want to tick off a lot of her supporters? Now, you have eloquently stated the other side, which is some semblance of democracy. And I think that we really won't know about that for a couple of days. I think I would look for a clue. There's 5 or 6 very viable alternatives to her. As any one of those who endorses her at this point, that will be an indication that it's moving towards consensus on Harris. There won't be a consensus on anybody else. It's either Harris or a fight.
Yeah, like for example, Senator Mark Kelly already came out and endorsed her, but Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan did not, as an example.
Yeah, and I think it would take at least one very credible alternative, and by credible I mean one of those 5 or 6 people. The governors of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Pennsylvania were most discussed. Mark Kelly was thrown into the mix. Gavin Newsom in California would be another one. Maybe there's a couple more out there. But unless somebody of that stature is willing to jump in and say, I want to challenge her for this thing, I think that you could get a consensus around her, and that would be a done deal. There's arguments on both sides, and believe me, that your argument is being presented as one of 2 alternatives right now, as the Democratic establishment sort of thinks about this.
Dr. Mike O'Neill is our KTAR political analyst. Mike, one final question here, and then we'll let you get back to your Sunday. Can we trust any polling at this point, or do we throw everything that we knew up until now right out the window?
I hate to characterize it as somebody who's done polls for almost 50 years. I hate to use the phrase don't trust, but I would urge everybody to wait at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, before attributing very much stability. We are in an extremely volatile moment, and even if a poll reflected the perfect perceptions of this instant, the inherent underlying structure is so volatile that wouldn't necessarily mean anything of any enduring value.
Hey, Mike, Arizona and the voting, Trump's up by 6 or 7. If it ends up being Harris and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, can Kelly deliver the state? Can they come back from 7 points if that's what's going to be the ticket?
Kelly would be a plus, and it's way too early to take all those numbers that we had. The numbers from yesterday were very different from the numbers of 2 weeks ago. But because of a modest shift, I think everything's up for grabs right now. You've got a new candidate. This is a new choice, and the attitudes are going to be extremely volatile. And I think it's at least a couple of weeks before we even have a baseline, and that baseline is just before the beginning of a campaign, which is supposed to officially start on Labor Day.
KTAR political analyst Mike O'Neill, thanks so much for jumping on with us, Mike. We sure appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right. So
imagine if Harris, if 2 weeks from now, Harris, the poll numbers go down. She has worse numbers than Biden.
I think it's conceivable.
It's possible.
Yeah. So how important then is the VP? I don't think it's hugely important.
I think
so. I don't know
it's
that
never
Mark Kelly,
been important, but
it was important when Biden was the nominee, because no one thought Biden was going to make it through 4 years. So that was why. That's the only time the VP had ever been important. I think we're back to the VP doesn't matter.
But is it important now because it resets everything?
Well, no, or is it you got to grab
if you can deliver a state,
Pennsylvania's governor to try and turn the numbers there, or Michigan's governor to try and win that state. That's the only. That's it. That's why it's important.
Do you guys really think a governor delivers a state? Though
I don't know.
I mean, I think
it can't hurt.
So far, Trump is winning in all the swing states, all of them.
Let's just say you think Gavin Newsom is the best candidate, though. Wouldn't you say he would have the best chance to deliver the nomination?
At the top of the ticket, right, as a VP.
Or even as VP, wouldn't you say that?
No.
See, I just don't sit there and go, a Wes Moore or a Gretchen Whitmer. I know Moore's not from a swing state, but you don't sit there and go, yeah, that person is going to deliver that state. Mark Kelly, I don't think he locks up Arizona.
I'm not saying he locks up.
I don't disagree.
For whomever.
But can he do? Can he? Trump's up by 7. If Harris and Kelly are the chosen ones. I think there'd be some people out there that say, you know what, it makes me feel better that Kelly's on the ticket, and I really don't like Trump. I'll probably just vote for them.
McCain won Arizona in a landslide.
Right. That's different, though.
And the other thing is, if you take Shapiro out of Pennsylvania, I don't know that he gets you Wisconsin. If you take Kelly out of Arizona, I don't think he gets you Georgia. If you take
Whitmer, no, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think
Good point. But how about one state that they're losing? They turn it.
I still don't even know. Again, we put a lot of credence in media in the vice presidential pick. I don't know how much.
I don't think
voters
anybody
actually
cares
do.
about the vice president.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
But this could be different because we haven't seen this in over 50 years, right?
Can they get one of the 7 states
and make it competitive?
Well, and we're 106, 107 days away. That's why it's important now.
We're what?
106 days away from the election. We vote 107
Early ballots
days
go
from
out
now.
mid-September in some places.
Throw everything you thought you knew and toss it out the window. Just throw it all out. The only thing we know is that the Democrats have a massive task ahead of them. We'll talk with the Democratic strategist. Stacey Pearson joins us next in our ongoing coverage of the breaking news of Joe Biden dropping out of the race. It's next, KTAR News.
National radio station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older who are residents of the state of Arizona unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Full general contest rules are available in person at the station or at KTAR.com.
As he bows out of this race, President Biden is ending a more than 50-year career in politics. People close to him for weeks have said, despite the pressure, this decision was ultimately his and his alone. The Democratic National Convention is now less than a month away. Almost all of the party's more than 4,600 delegates are pledged to President Biden because of the primaries. And it's those delegates who will now vote to determine the party's nominee.
Stay with KTAR News for more on this breaking news story on 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
Start smart with Arizona's Morning News.
U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema has introduced the Border Weather Resiliency Act. Border and Customs officers will have to provide heat protection plans and stations for employees. The goal is to reduce heat deaths.
Arizona's Morning News, weekday mornings 5 to 8 on Arizona's news station, KTAR News, 92.3 FM, and the KTAR News app.
The KTAR News app. It's your portal to a world of Arizona news and information from Arizona's news station. Listen to podcasts, stream KTAR News live, read breaking news stories on the KTAR News app. Presented by Rias Air Conditioning.
You're never more than 15 minutes away from today's top news stories. Arizona's breaking news and traffic leader with Arizona's largest radio news team. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
The atmosphere over Arizona is just right for the monsoon, generating sudden, severe thunderstorms with high winds, damaging hail, lightning, torrential downpours of rain, and blowing dust, making driving conditions unsafe on any road.
Blowing dust advisories, flash flood warnings, and some pretty severe weather.
Stay alert and stay informed with Arizona's news station, KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
KTAR Breaking News Alert.
KTAR News Time is 2:45. I'm Jonah Harkle. We are getting reactions to the news that President Biden is no longer seeking re-election in the presidential race. Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton says President Biden put the future of the country first with his decision. Despite his earlier call for Biden to leave the race, Stanton says the president will go down as one of the most effective chief executives of the modern era. Governor Katie Hobbs calls the president the embodiment of a public servant who has has delivered for the United States and for Arizona. She calls the timing of the announcement unprecedented, but says the country's foundational principles of democracy guide us forward. Once again, breaking news today. President Biden has announced he is no longer running for president this year. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app. And for more, go to KTAR.com.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
Continuing coverage now of breaking news that Joe Biden is dropping out of the presidential race. We don't know exactly who that replacement is going to be, although, Bruce, you already got an email asking for money, and I appreciate that. Bruce St. James, Gatos, Joe Huizinga, I'm Chris Merrill covering this, and you guys from the show Outspoken starts at 4 o'clock every afternoon. Tell me about the email you got.
No, I was actually reading a campaign filing, FEC. Federal Election Commission, FEC campaign filing that the Biden for President campaign, where you donate your money, officially moved to change its name to Harris for President. They did that about 8 minutes ago.
So it sounds like they are planning on switching all of that money over.
Well, I don't know if they have a choice.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, that money was donated to Biden-Harris for president.
And she's basically
if it isn't Biden or Harris, you got to go back and ask all those people, you want your money back?
Right. Yeah. It's a hassle, right?
Yeah.
Joining us right now is Democratic strategist Stacey Pearson, and Stacey, co-founder of Lumen Strategies. Stacey, we don't know a whole lot, but what we do know is that the Democrats now have a whole lot of obstacles in front of them. How long has the apparatus been sort of gearing up for a potential change atop the ticket?
Well, it's funny. You say we've got obstacles. I would say opportunities. We're looking at a situation where ballots are going to be mailed in Arizona in 80 days. And that's a lifetime in today's media cycle. And President Biden did the right thing for the party and for the country by passing the torch. And for the next few weeks, it's going to be a bit messy. We're going to see folks vying for the top of the ticket position, vying for pole position. We're going to see attacks. My television already has attack commercials against Kamala Harris. And then we're seeing democracy in progress. It's going to be fun.
Who's the one person you think is going to run against Harris? The one lock, the one person you say, yeah, that person's definitely going to go for the top of the ticket.
Oh, it's interesting. I thought, again, I'm most interested in what people aren't saying and who isn't talking. And I thought former President Barack Obama not endorsing Vice President Harris today was very interesting, and left it open for others to get in the race. So if it's a Gretchen Whitmer, or if it's a Gavin Newsom, or if it's a J.B. Pritzker, or a number of folks that are on the bench. Mark Kelly offered his endorsement earlier, maybe an hour or so ago, for Vice President Harris. So it doesn't appear that he's going to throw his hat in the ring for the top of the ticket, the very top anyway. But I think we're still going to see some folks maneuvering.
Stacey Pearson is the co-founder of Lumen Strategies and a Democratic strategist. So, Stacey, I think there may be some value in Obama not endorsing Harris at the same time that he is sort of paying homage to Joe Biden, the same way that Joe Biden didn't endorse Harris in his resignation letter. There's sort of a separation. Let's talk about Joe Biden, and now let's move on to the next process. Is there something that, we're kind of reading into the fact that he didn't endorse her, but is it just that he hasn't put that out yet?
Well, it is a different approach than the Clintons took, for example. So former President Clinton, former candidate Clinton, both endorsed Kamala Harris this morning. So there is something to be read into this.
Okay.
But I agree with you that President Obama, in his review of and his endorsement or his support of Joe Biden stepping aside was extraordinary. So it's going to be interesting to see how this slate shapes up. We've got 4 weeks before the Democratic National Convention and the actual nominee is finalized. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Hey, Stacey, it's Bruce. I got a question for you. I'm trying to understand this a little bit, at least when it comes to the Obama angle. Is it fair to say, is his endorsement the endorsement in the Democratic world? I understand Clinton's lined up and Mark Kelly and some others have endorsed VP Harris, but is there somebody that carries more weight than his?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody who carries more weight than former President Obama. I mean, he is the endorsement folks need.
Got it.
Endorsements don't matter, though, right? Who cares?
Money matters. Endorsements bring money, and money matters.
So Obama.
So it's
So
especially in this abbreviated cycle.
So Obama's saying if he chooses Harris, or let's say he chooses Whitmer, then it would be important.
So goes the money, right? And really, we look at George Clooney and his withdrawal of his support for President Biden. We say endorsements don't matter until they do. Yeah. And that George Clooney changing
the endorsement in the Democrat.
All right. Stacey Pearson will get obviously you're hearing some feedback there. Stacey Pearson, co-founder of Lumen Strategies, our guest here. She talked about, I said obstacles, she said they are opportunities. I appreciate
that's a good strategist.
And I appreciate the spin, right? But the truth is there are some obstacles.
Without a doubt.
When we have to spend millions of dollars more to reprint signs and put up new billboards and cut campaign ads and everything else, it's not necessarily an opportunity. I mean, you could say, well, yeah, we're rebranding. Okay, but that's money you got to spend that you had already spent.
Isn't it better? I think a lot of people would think it's a lot better to have someone other than Biden on that poster or that sticker.
I agree, but if you try to get a rush order in during election season with a printer,
to the White House, they could do it.
I mean, it's tough.
They think they could figure it out.
They have their own printers, right? I think the printer is in the White House. Like,
right.
They're cranking out the new signs.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some of those opportunities then, Stacey. What are some of those opportunities? Obviously, you get to roll out the under new management, new and improved sign, right? So what goes with that? And how much of this is ideology and how much of this is showmanship trying to get the word out?
So the beauty of this is going to be a lot of ideology. We as Democrats have the upper hand on the ideology. We're talking about abortion. And the president, who has now decided not to run, hates even saying the word. And if it's Vice President Harris that takes his place, she understands what's at stake for women and their reproductive decisions. And so we're going to get back to the issues that matter to folks in the United States, and particularly in swing states like Arizona. We're going to talk about abortion. We're going to talk about immigration. Arizona understands the wall is stupid. Like that wall, if anyone's driven to Rocky Point in the course of the last few years, it's silly looking, much less ineffective. So I think we're really going to get into some nitty-gritty policy in Arizona in particular.
Stacey Pearson, Democratic strategist and co-founder of Lumen Strategies, joins us here for a few more minutes. Stacey, give me one name. If not Vice President Harris, who on the top of the ticket? And
I already know who she likes.
And if Harris, does any VP candidate move the needle at all for the Democrats?
Well, I like J.B. Pritzker.
I knew it. I knew it.
I know. I'm predictable.
Why?
But he's the second largest contributor to political causes in Arizona, behind a Soros guy. So we're looking at someone who's invested $850,000 into the abortion measure in Arizona, who has the network of funders available to him, has a good history, balanced a budget, rooted out, kind of crazy corruption in Illinois. So we've got him. And certainly for Arizona, we fit all of the categories to have Mark Kelly be nominated as a vice president. So we've got a Democratic governor who would replace Mark Kelly with a Democrat. We wouldn't be in a situation where Obama pulled Janet Napolitano and ushered in another 20 years of Republican governors. And we've got the math, the calculus that smart people in the cigar smoke-filled rooms are looking at all look good for a Mark Kelly VP.
Okay.
Stacey, let me ask one more question. I got a message on Twitter. Say hi to your dog for us. I got a message on Twitter that says, nothing says democracy more than a political party picking its presidential candidate. Is there going to be blowback that, hey, this is not the guy we voted for in the primaries?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some perfunctory or some, more than perfunctory primary activity between now and Chicago, right? There's going to be some robust debate because it's good for democracy. And honestly, we as Democrats, we're not just running against a crazy ex-president. We were trying to defeat apathy, and our party was not invigorated for November. And
that's
that
great point.
problem was solved at, 1 something Eastern time today.
Yeah.
Like the apathy problem has been solved. Now it's a matter of going to win against and defeat the extremist ideas that have been put forth by the former president.
Stacey Pearson, she is a Democratic strategist, co-founder of Lumen Strategies. And Stacey, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
what you just read, I think, is mostly coming from Republicans.
It was.
Yeah, and I get that argument, but I think that if you're a Democratic voter, you're like, yeah, Biden has dementia. We can't have him. Give me somebody else, and maybe we have a shot.
Yeah, the people arguing against it would have, the Republicans would have had zero problem if the Republicans went through a whole thing and go, nah, we're just going to pick Trump. They'd have been like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it's a moral argument.
Clarification, I love it when I hear people's dogs. I really do. Like, this is not me being sarcastic.
No, you just love dogs.
I do love dogs. Yeah. I thought, people are going to say he was being disrespectful.
No.
That's not the case. I genuinely love it.
We should learn more about Stacey's dog.
Best part of the pandemic is learning about people's pets.
Sounded like a big dog.
I did, too. I love that. I want to go pet it and give it kisses. Okay, so here we get moving toward the end here. Have we decided that there's a clear replacement?
No.
Okay.
No way.
Well,
because you can go with Harris. She's a lousy candidate.
I think if your odds or percentage, can I do percentage? Because I'm horrible with odds.
Yes.
Harris 75%.
I'd agree.
I was going to say 80.
That's just a bad candidate, though. You can go with her, but maybe she's a little bit better than Biden.
So I want to come back to something you said earlier, because Bruce was making a point. He said, listen, the floor for Biden is about 45%. Okay. Yeah. Which that would be your hardcore Ds. They're always going to vote for whoever's going to D.
Vote for whoever has a D next to
and
them.
then you're never Trumpers, right? Okay. So he pitched the question. He said, would Harris raise that floor? And Gatos, you said she might bring it up by 3% or more.
Or she might lose by 5%.
Well, that was my question, because you said she might bring it up. But
she
might
go down, too. I don't think D's and never Trumpers are going to leave the Biden campaign part.
I wonder what independents are thinking about Kamala Harris for president.
Well, one of the things that I've heard you guys talking about on your show for a while is just how unlikable both candidates were. 80% of the country
didn't we hear
like
that with the double haters? I hate both of them.
Harris is the third most unlikable candidate for president.
But she's not one of the top two.
Now she is.
Okay, but that makes her less hated than Trump?
I think.
Because anything
She's not as old.
That's true.
just Trump is a terrible candidate. Biden was worse. Harris is bad. I don't know where she ranks here.
Is bad better than worse? Right.
But if you ask me, what are the three worst candidates that we could have? Trump and Biden and Harris.
If I asked you, you'd say anybody that's running. Yeah. That's what you'd say.
No, America does it. We take the worst and we make it our candidate.
So that's for a long time.
Or the candidates immediately
put somebody up from Pennsylvania or Chicago or Illinois or Wisconsin or Michigan. Maybe that'd be better than.
You know what? Why don't you take over?
Let's do it.
We're going to have Gatos and Bruce St. James. They're going to sit in the driver's seat. Joe Huizinga, Chris Merrill. We're going to bounce, and then we're back again tomorrow at 2. Ongoing coverage. In fact, I think you guys are going to talk with our legal expert and find out what's the law behind trying to change this, right?
We ain't going anywhere.
Holy cow. Looking forward to it. My radio will be tuned. I hope that yours will stay right here. Breaking coverage of Biden dropping out of the presidential race continues. KTAR News.
Hey, it's me, your liver. You know, the organ that helps you recover every weekend after pizza, donuts, and all those drinks. When you have a headache, you take an aspirin. You have a stomachache, you pop an antacid. But where's the love for your best buddy, the liver? The least that you could do to help me stay healthy is take Active Liver from New Nordic. Active Liver tablets contain high-quality, all-natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke, and turmeric extracts, which are proven to keep me healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver provides an easy daily detox and helps protect me all year long. So let me make you an offer you can't refuse. You take care of me with Active Liver, and I keep taking care of you. Capiche?
See for yourself why Active Liver is Scandinavia's #1 liver health supplement. You can find Active Liver at CVS and online at Amazon, Target.com, or directly from NewNordicUSA.com. Again, find it in stores at CVS or online at Amazon, Target.com, or NewNordicUSA.com.
Tell us about an outstanding teacher worthy of a $2,500 check by texting teacher to 620-620. Pay tribute to a teacher from KTAR News. Presented by Your Valley Toyota dealers. Message and data rates may apply.
KTAR-FM, Glendale, Phoenix.
KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
From ABC News.
I'm Daria Albinger. We still don't know who will win the 2024 presidential election, but today we learned who will not. President Biden ending his re-election bid.
After laying low for several days, the president went on a blitz, trying to convince Americans he had the stamina for the campaign and 4 more years on the job.
You're going to drop out. What you going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again.
The president hit the road for official and campaign events. He did television and radio interviews and an hour-long press conference after the NATO summit. But that debate performance did damage. In 538's national polling average, Trump now has a slim lead over President Biden, while the two candidates were just about tied on the day of the June 27th debate. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Mr. Biden also wants his vice president, Kamala Harris, at the top of the new Democratic ticket. But ABC's Terry Moran says she is in a
Kamala Harris has, some potential weaknesses. She is the best known of all of them, having already run on a national ticket and having a national profile. But that can run against people too, and it may with her. The polls show she's slightly more favorably viewed by the public than the president, but she also has higher negatives than the others. They're less well known, and every move that she makes now is going to be watched.
But many lawmakers are already saying they're on board.
I'm very excited about our party and the country coming together behind President Biden's successor. We have a deep bench. Kamala Harris is at the top of my list.
Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal. As for Harris, she is already working the phones. And as for former President Trump, he's posted on his Truth Social site repeating the call that Mr. Biden was, quote, the nation's worst president. The president says he'll speak to the nation later this week about his decision. You're listening to ABC News.
Arizona's news station. KTAR. On air, 92.3 FM. Online at KTAR.com. And streaming live on the KTAR News app. Your breaking news and traffic now.
KTAR News Time is 3:02. I'm Jonah Harkle. New this afternoon to the KTAR News Center, President Biden is no longer running for a second term as president. He made the announcement today in a statement on X. This comes after multiple Democratic lawmakers and donors called for him to leave the presidential race, including several Arizona politicians, including Congressman Greg Stanton and U.S. Representative Rahul Grijalva. Concern grew after Biden struggled during the June debate against Donald Trump. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, who has been mentioned in recent days as a potential presidential candidate, says the president showed great humility in his decision to end his campaign. He goes on to say he's never been more confident that Vice President Kamala Harris is the right person to defeat Donald Trump. Democratic Congressman and candidate for U.S. Senate Ruben Gallego says President Biden has consistently worked to make life better for hardworking Americans. He describes Arizona as being at a crossroads as Election Day approaches. On the other side of the political aisle, Arizona Republican Party Chair Gina Swoboda says regardless of who Democrats choose for the top of their ticket, they will lose in November. Adding Donald Trump and J.D. Vance will restore opportunity and bring back American greatness. What comes next for Democrats now that President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign? KTAR political analyst Mike O'Neill says Vice President Kamala Harris would appear to be the frontrunner. He'll be watching to see if others mentioned as potential candidates back her.
If it goes to a competitive process, I think she's still the leading candidate. She's the vice president. She's on the ticket. All that money that went to Biden-Harris is now hers.
As for the president's decision, O'Neill says he was not surprised, especially as pressure continued to build on him to get out of the race. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. Watch for major slowing on the southbound I-17. We are seeing a long line of traffic from around the 303 up to North Daisy Mountain Drive. Expect delays if you are taking the 17 back into Phoenix. And in Scottsdale, a construction closure is causing lots of backup around East Cactus Road. Watch for delays on the northbound Loop 101 Pima Freeway with closures between Rain Tree Drive and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. KTAR weather for the valley this afternoon, partly sunny with a high near 109. Continue to watch for that chance of showers and thunderstorms after 4 p.m. It's 108 degrees in Phoenix right now. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle on Arizona's news station, KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues on KTAR.com and the KTAR News app.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right, we are outspoken. It's Bruce and Gatos at 3:05 on a Sunday. Just finished up with Chris and Joe. We're giving you the best coverage of President Joe Biden exiting the race. He's endorsed Harris as the nominee. Doesn't mean that she is the nominee.
There's still a process.
Yeah, but this thing has just unraveled on President Joe Biden.
It went fast, didn't it?
You know what? You can't when you show, and it's not his fault. When you show up for a debate and you give your best, and that was his best, it's just not good enough. It shows he's got dementia. It shows that he is not cognitively there as he used to be. And I think, let's be honest, if you looked at a clip of Joe Biden 2 years ago, if you watched it and heard it, and then you heard a clip from that debate, you're like, listen, this just isn't the same man. He doesn't have the strength to run. And it took him a while to come around to that. But today, Bruce, he has announced that he will remain the president, but he will not run for re-election. And that is where we stand. And now it is
game on.
It is, but it is all uncharted territory.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly not something that's happened in our lifetimes. We get to watch this. It'll be interesting because I don't think even the D's know exactly how this is going to play out.
Yeah.
What does this look like for the next 4 weeks before the Democratic National Convention starts on August 19th? 4 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah, I think every day is going to be so important leading up to the Democratic National Convention. Every single day. I'll give you something that's going through my mind.
What's that?
Anybody going to run against Harris? I sure hope so.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because, a lot of people are coming out singing, a lot of Ds are coming out talking about President Biden, what a great president he was, thank him, all this, that, and the other. Yeah. It's important to note the ones who don't follow that up with, and I fully support and endorse VP Harris. Like, there's some of them that are like, President Biden did a great job. I'm so proud of it. Glad to be a Democrat. What about Harris? I really don't have a comment on that right now.
That's 'cause she's a bad vice president, Bruce.
Well, that's opinion. I don't know that.
Yeah, but I think it's the right opinion.
Okay.
I
don't agree with it.
You think she's been a good vice president?
I have no idea how to judge vice presidents.
That's my thing. I think I can judge someone who's bad, and I think she's bad.
Yeah, I don't think she's bad.
I don't think that she can get a point across. She giggles all the time because she's nervous. She's not very good in front of crowds. How did she do on the border? I think it was unfair.
I've seen her do good before, so.
I've seen her do nothing on the border. She was supposed to be the border czar. And by the way, unfair to give her that job. Why? She never cared about the border. But, I mean, if you're in Arizona...
Politicians don't care about the border.
Politicians, some say they do.
Right, and none of them actually do.
Yeah. But I think that she's a gaffe machine. And just because she's the vice president, just because she's a black woman, the first Asian American to be on a ticket, that means that she should be... I know she's a front runner, but it doesn't mean that she should get the nomination.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
I think there are plenty of people that would make a much better candidate for president on the Democratic side than Harris. Plenty. I can name you, off the top of my head, I can name you 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think there's the problem is there are some structural issues when it comes to money. I know that's just kind of, whether you like it or not, we still elect presidents based on who can run more radio and TV commercials.
Okay.
So there's a money issue with the money that's been raised up until now. Would you have to give it back if it wasn't Harris? Because her name was on the Biden-Harris campaign.
Barry Markson is going to join us.
Yeah, and you talk about name recognition.
He's a lawyer. Why don't we ask him?
Yeah.
Where's the money going to go? Does it have to go to Harris because of, because her name is on it? Okay.
But when it comes to name recognition also, in a 108 days till the election, I think it was. Don't hold me to it. It's 100 and something. Is there another Democrat that has a bigger national name?
No.
Yeah. So I don't know if Harris will be the de facto nominee because there just isn't somebody better in 100 days that they think can win.
Yeah, name recognition is huge, no doubt about it. But she comes with a lot of cons.
Sure.
You want to put the pros and cons up. We talk about this tomorrow at 4. There are way more cons than pros, I believe. But in saying that, she's a better candidate than Joe Biden.
Yeah, she should be able to
debate
more vigorously, have a conversation about things. Yeah,
that's the sad part of this whole thing, because I don't like what I've seen from Joe Biden, but I also know that a lot of it's not his fault. You know, it's not his fault that his brain is failing him. He's an old man, and old people get that way.
Age has caught up to him, without a doubt.
Age has caught up with him. There's no doubt. I think we should give him a little bit of grace for that. I'm glad that he's come around. Even though he was pushed out and forced out, I'm glad he's come around to this decision because he shouldn't be in this position anymore. I felt as an American, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, I'm a skeptic. But when I watch Joe Biden, I feel sad for this country. I don't think he oozes any leadership. I don't think it's not like he's grabbing my attention. I look at him like, my God, you're frail. My goodness, are you going to be able to get up those stairs? The poor guy got COVID. He barely made it up the stairs. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, you're weak, man. And it's not your fault. It's just your age, and it's time to say goodbye. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay.
Know when to leave the stage.
You got to know. You can't be Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, and I think the problem, I'm going to assume, when it comes to president is, if age catches up to you in the middle of your term,
yeah,
you're like, well, I got to see it out. you know, it's not like any other, like a quarterback in football, you know, or a pitcher that loses his fastball. We're like, that was my last game. I just don't got it anymore.
No.
You can't do that when you're president. You got to try to stick it out because that's what you're told to do.
A lot of it, but it is kind of similar. Like a lot of athletes, will retire, and the reason they will retire is they want to have some sort of legacy. Same with Biden. The reason that an athlete retires. They can't do it anymore. They just physically cannot do it anymore. And for Joe Biden, it was mental and physical. And I think one of the big questions we're going to be asking is, can he still run the country? And my answer is probably not.
But nothing's going to happen. You
can't. But I don't think anything's going to happen.
You can't.
Well, you can. You could do the 25th Amendment.
But Vice President Harris is not going to do that.
Does the vice president have to do that?
Yeah.
It has to come from the vice president. Yeah. You could impeach him. That would be a big waste of time.
But the Senate wouldn't vote for that.
Can he just finish the job?
4 more months or whatever.
Can he do 4 more months? I mean,
I suppose you could argue if you're not having to campaign and fly around the country and do all that stuff, well, it's got to be easier, right?
Definitely easier.
It's not harder.
I mean, I think if he can't run, he can't be president. But I don't know how quickly I'd like to boot him out of office. You know, I think that would create just another big headache. But listen, I've got to see somebody go against Harris. Just can't be given to her. Just because you're the vice president doesn't mean that you get the gig. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. It shouldn't be an anointment, right. I guess is what you're saying. But we're in uncharted territories. I mean, for goodness sakes, nobody has a roadmap for how this is supposed to work. And so you're going to find out kind of who is the best positioned, who has the real power, who has the money behind them, the donors behind them. Like, that's going to drive kind of which direction this goes.
Because the donors are back now that Biden's gone.
They're claiming they raised $5 million in the first hour after Biden announced.
Yeah,
for Harris.
The Democrats can come together and say Donald Trump's bad for democracy and we need to get rid of him. Now, selling people on President Kamala Harris, I guess it's one of those things where who would you rather be sitting in the Oval Office, Harris or Trump? And I think you're probably going to get a lot of 50-50 splits on that one.
Yeah, well, and I think she has an opportunity to tell her story to some people who may not be as familiar with her or as decided. Trump and Biden weren't going to change anybody's minds on anything. There was no secrets about them anymore. You knew exactly who they were.
And I think when you started today, this Sunday, and you're looking at the race and you go, well, Donald Trump is going to win this race. That's how I see it. Joe Biden can't win. Okay. Now Joe Biden has stepped down from the race. And I think you have a little bit of hope on the Democratic side. Today you went from, well, we're not going to beat that guy who got shot. Then he got up, and then he put his fist up. And now people are they like him even more. I think if you're a Democrat, you're like, all right, well, now at least we have a chance. And I think that's the big part of the big news of the day. Joe Biden steps down. Coming up next is Barry Markson. We'll ask him some of those legal questions, Bruce, that we've got.
We need to.
Like, who gets the money? Like, all that money, all those millions and millions and millions.
Yeah, tens of millions.
Can it go to Harris, or can it go to a Gretchen Whitmer? I don't know. We're going to ask Barry that question, get his thoughts as well. As it is a Bruce and Negatos. We're here on a Sunday. The breaking news: Joe Biden will not run for re-election. KTAR.
KTAR breaking news alert.
KTAR News Time is 3:15. I'm Jonah Harkle. There's been plenty of reaction from elected leaders from Arizona following President Joe Biden's decision to leave the presidential race. Arizona's Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, says that he is confident that Arizona will deliver a general election that will represent the, quote, will of the people after Biden's decision to withdraw. Governor Katie Hobbs calls the president the embodiment of a public servant who has delivered for the United States and for Arizona. She calls the timing of the announcement unprecedented, but says the country's foundational principles of democracy guide us forward. On the other side of the aisle, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs says the president's decision not to run for re-election affirms what the world has known for years, that he is not mentally fit to be president. Once again, breaking today, President Biden has announced he is no longer running for president this year. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right. Hey, let's jump right into this on an amazing day in American history, right?
I thought last week was an amazing,
wasn't it though?
Crazy. It was an awful day.
Every few days, there's another, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. Well, it's happening today as President Biden is dropping out of the re-election race, staying as president. But joining us right now is KTAR legal analyst Barry Markson, who has a lot of strong opinions as well. Barry, great to have you with us. Thanks.
Good to see you, gentlemen. I think the word you're looking for is unprecedented. We've been saying that more than I've ever had it in my entire life. Unprecedented.
Well, it just feels like it's not the right word. We need a word past unprecedented. We've worn out unprecedented.
It's a bigger word.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions that go on. Can I ask one that I don't fully know the answer to?
Sure.
There's been a lot of money raised by the Biden for President or Biden-Harris campaign. That's a private organization, goes out raising money, the fundraisers at, George Clooney's house or these $1,000 a plate things. What happens to that money if the candidate changes?
Well, the first thing to know is that Kamala Harris is on the ticket with Joe Biden. So it isn't, when the money was raised, it was for the Biden-Harris ticket. So if she's the nominee, she gets the money. Nothing legal has to happen. She just
nothing changes.
Right. Now, let's say other people enter this race and the convention, and then they pick Josh Shapiro to be the nominee. So the question becomes, can they transfer somehow the $100 or $200 million that Biden and Harris have raised to the next president? Legally, that's not easy, but I will tell you, I think there's going to be a way to make that happen. Either it can be, a lot of that is pledges, and the donors can just move the money over. They could also probably take that money and put it into a PAC and use that on behalf of the new nominee. It's going to be legally more difficult, but I wouldn't be that concerned about that aspect of it.
Got it.
Barry Markson is joining us on KTAR. The president is not going to run for re-election. It'll be Donald Trump versus whoever it is. Barry, what was your initial reaction to Biden dropping out of that race today?
Well, I think like all of us for the last, couple of weeks since the debate, we've kind of said this is going to happen. And there were starts and stops with it. And but it's just very, very difficult to overcome that. I think the poll I saw the other day was 65% of Democrats said he should step aside. That's hard to get through. So, and then once you started seeing Schumer and Pelosi and people actually going to him directly, not going through his people, but going to him directly and sitting down and showing him the numbers, I kind of expected this to happen at that point. But now the thinking is, what an incredible thing that he's doing. I mean, think about this. For anybody to step away from power like that, it's very difficult. You don't see that in other countries. That's why you see in other countries people who are elected become dictators. They don't want to give it up. I mean, can you imagine Donald Trump ever stepping away from the nomination like this? It just would never happen.
He didn't want to step away from the presidency. What are you talking about?
Right, exactly. So you have to give. I mean, look, Joe Biden. If he had done this a year ago, I think he would have been a hero. I think he would have been looked at almost like Washington and stepping away, to benefit the country, not himself. Doing it now isn't quite as impressive. It certainly has an air of he's being pushed out. But I do think he could have stayed. He absolutely could have stayed. He could have said, "I'm running. The rest of you can go pound sand." And he made the decision, whether because of the party or the country, to do it this way. And you have to give him some credit for that, I think. The other thing that just popped into my head was, the news has been nothing but Joe Biden over the last 2 or 3 weeks, right? It's been, can Biden do it?
Negative
Every time he
Biden.
speaks, we're looking at him, we're examining him. And now that goes away. Now the question should turn around to Trump, because Trump's almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
George Conway's out there saying Trump's got narcissistic personality disorder and psychological issues and isn't qualified to be president. Now we can focus back on the candidates and not on whether Joe Biden is taking too many steps or slurring his words. So I think it changes the race quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the old guy is Donald Trump now. It's not Joe Biden.
Right.
I don't know if that's really. I don't know if the Democrats are going to try and seize on that. I don't know if. That's
Absolutely, they will.
You think that's a winning strategy?
I've already seen. I don't know if there's a memo or they're all on some sort of a WhatsApp thing, but they immediately started putting out. And I when you see it written the same way over and over again, it's some talking point. Yeah. But it said Donald Trump is now the oldest candidate to ever run for office.
Yeah,
for president.
True. But I mean, he's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden is way far worse, and Trump gets names wrong too. But when you call Zelensky Putin, when you call your vice president Trump, I mean, it's really not close between the two. Yeah, Trump is old.
Trump won't be getting sharper.
No, he won't. But Joe Biden was far gone. Far gone. Yeah. And so we're talking to Barry Markson, KTAR legal analyst. He's also been part of our war room. Bruce will probably have a war room tomorrow, I'm guessing.
We have to.
So they shouldn't just give the nominee to Harris. That's a massive mistake. I think Americans will be ticked. I think they want to at least see a couple of options, right, Bear?
Well, in the perfect world, I'd agree with you, Gatos, but you have to remember a couple of things. First of all, this election, the actual general election is 3.5 months away? It's very soon. The Democrats have to have somebody to start to run against Donald Trump. That has to happen quickly. The other part is, and I just speak of this practically, Kamala Harris is the vice president. She's the heir apparent. She's been endorsed by the president. She's an African-American Asian woman. To push her aside is going to, I think, disenfranchise a huge part of the Democratic Party. I just don't know how you do that from a practical level. And then the last thing I'll just say is none of these other people have any infrastructure in place. Gavin Newsom and Beshears and everybody, Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, none of them have been preparing to run for president. And you can't just throw that together.
It doesn't happen overnight. Well, Barry, can I break some news with you?
Yeah.
Governor Shapiro endorsed Vice President Harris for president.
Yeah. They're all falling in line.
It seems like the names we heard that might challenge her, the Mark Kellys getting in line. Governor Shapiro getting in line. Some of them are getting in line.
Yeah. I think you're going to see everybody getting in line now. Any chance of somebody else running against her in the convention, I think ended when President Biden endorsed her. I think that really brought that to an end. And then you started seeing the former President Clinton come out. It's incredibly impossible for somebody to step into this race and say, I can raise this money. I can raise $300 million in a week. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So I don't know that Kamala Harris is the best candidate. She has a lot of flaws and a lot of folks don't like her. And I don't know where her polling is, but I don't think it's great. But I think she's it for the Democratic Party, and they're going to have to figure out how to rally behind her and make it work.
All right,
Barry, let me ask you this. Do you think if Mark Kelly's the VP, do you think that turns Arizona, or is it not enough to get Arizona?
I don't think it hurts, but I don't know if it's enough to swing it. Although I would say any polling data that we've had as of yesterday goes out the window, right?
I think it does go out the window, but I think Trump's getting Arizona this time. I don't see Harris, who was supposed to be, this border czar. I think Arizona has a bad taste in their mouth for a Joe Biden and a Vice President Harris. When it comes to
you may be right. It's going to be a tough climb here in Arizona for sure. But I will tell you, for the folks there's a lot of people who don't want to vote for Trump, but then looked at Biden and just said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. He's too old. That goes away now. So if Harris can come out and persuade us that she's not a giggling fool and that she can be the president, and people say, oh, I didn't really know who she was, but she's okay, that might be enough. It's not going to be a vote for Harris as much as a vote as I can't vote for Trump. And if you give them a reasonable alternative, that could be the difference.
Appreciate it, Barry. Thank you very much. That's a KTAR legal analyst, Barry Markson.
Thanks, Bear.
Joining us on a unprecedented day in American history as President Biden will be a one-term president by, at least he says, his own decision.
So, all right. So we're seeing everybody fall in line on the Democratic side. Mark Kelly endorsing Harris. Now we've got Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro, who was supposed to be maybe at the top of the ticket. Maybe he's endorsed Harris. So to me, this thing has been in the works for weeks. Everybody's falling in line. The Clintons they fell in line earlier today. They're endorsing Harris. This is what it's been, if you ask me, for a couple of weeks. Okay, Joe, you're not going to run. You're not there anymore. Thanks for what you've done. But we're gonna, and I know this sounds, I'm making it pretty simple, but we're gonna move on with Harris, and you just need to make that decision quickly. Like Pelosi might have said that to him. It just seems like for weeks this has really been the plan. Everyone is now falling in line for Harris, and I'm telling you, I don't know if anyone's going to run against her. I don't think. I think that's a massive mistake. But I think that this is the plan and has been the plan. It's Harris. Everybody fall in line. Biden's going to go away. She's it. Fall in line. You're a governor. You're a senator. It doesn't matter who it is. Fall in line. Don't run against her.
We'll see. We shall see.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, but I think in the next 48 hours we'll know.
Who's got the guts in the Democratic Party to run against Harris? That's who. I want to know who that is.
It'll all come down to money, like it normally does. Hey, we're normally the outspoken guys. We get on here on your Sunday.
Outspoken. You've never said that before.
No, I haven't.
It's pretty good stuff. Let's write it down.
Bruce and Gatos, we're going to be talking more about this with more of the breaking news coming up next right here on KTAR.
Rosie on the house.
Every Arizona homeowner's best friend for over 30 years. Saturday mornings 8 till 11 on KTAR News 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
President Biden posted in a letter on X that he is no longer running for re-election, saying, quote, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. He says he'll speak to the nation later this week in more detail about his decision. He is currently at his home in Delaware recovering from COVID.
Stay with KTAR News for more on this breaking news story on 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
Start smart with Arizona's morning news.
A major farming equipment manufacturer is pulling support for pride parades and other events that promote inclusivity. John Deere cites backlash from customers and a drop in sales.
Arizona's morning news, weekday mornings 5 to 8 on Arizona's news station, KTAR News, 92.3 FM, and the KTAR News app.
The atmosphere over Arizona is just right for the monsoon, generating sudden, severe thunderstorms with high winds, damaging hail, lightning, torrential downpours of rain, and blowing dust, making driving conditions unsafe on any road.
Blowing dust advisories, flash flood warnings, and some pretty severe weather.
Stay alert and stay informed with Arizona's news station, KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app.
You're never more than 15 minutes away from today's top news stories. Arizona's breaking news and traffic leader with Arizona's largest radio news team. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
This month's KTAR Community Impact Spotlight focuses on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their support for Phoenix Children's. The Give-a-thon for Phoenix Children's is coming up in August, and this year marks 15 years of Valley Hyundai dealers' participation. In addition to giving from Hyundai USA, every individual Hyundai dealership in the Valley collects money for Give-a-thon to add their support. Over their 15-year association with Give-a-thon, your Valley Hyundai dealers have donated more than $1 million to Phoenix Children's. and they forecast their largest gift ever for 2024. KTAR News is proud to shine the community impact spotlight on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their tremendous giving to Phoenix Children's. The KTAR News app. It's your portal to a world of Arizona news and information from Arizona's news station. Listen to podcasts, stream KTAR News live, read breaking news stories on the KTAR News app, presented by Rias Air Conditioning.
KTAR News now.
Hello, everyone. KTAR News Time is 3:30. I'm Jonah Harkle. One Democratic political strategist from Arizona sees opportunity for the party in President Biden's decision to end his re-election campaign.
President Biden did the right thing for the party and for the country by passing the torch. And for the next few weeks, it's going to be a bit messy. We're going to see folks vying for the top of the ticket position, vying for pole position.
Despite the president's late exit from the campaign, Stacey Pearson says Democrats have plenty of time to get their house in order. She does say former President Barack Obama's decision not to immediately endorse Vice President Kamala Harris does leave the door open for others to vie for the presidential nomination. Most political watchers were expecting President Joe Biden to end his re-election campaign, including KTAR political analyst Mike O'Neill.
Not completely surprised, because there has been a couple of weeks when this has been widely speculated with a lot of good reason.
O'Neill says he'll be watching a number of key Democrats who have been mentioned as presidential candidates to see if they back Vice President Kamala Harris for the party's nomination. And now for a check on traffic from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center. The northbound lanes of US 93 are closed near Dolan Springs. Watch for this if you are traveling up north toward Las Vegas this Sunday. The closure is due to a crash at milepost 39, which is about 39 miles from the Arizona-California state line. And watch for major slowing on the I-17. We are seeing a long line of traffic from around the 303 up to North Daisy Mountain Drive. Expect delays if you are taking the 17 back into Phoenix. We are also seeing a crash on the southbound I-17 near Badger Springs Road. This is causing lots of slowing for anyone coming down from Flagstaff once again. This slowing starts north of Bumblebee and goes on for a very long time. KTAR weather for the Valley. It's 111 degrees in Buckeye right now. Weather brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air. I'm Jonah Harkle on Arizona's news station, KTAR News. Our coverage of Joe Biden's announcement that he will not seek re-election continues with special coverage from Bruce and Gatos.
A KTAR News special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right. What in another unprecedented day. Isn't that crazy? How about this? You ready for, can I give you a quick stat?
Yeah.
2024 presidential election will be the first presidential election since 1976 without a Bush, Clinton, or Biden on the ticket.
Interesting.
Since 1976.
So if you're
That's like political royalty.
You're just joining us, you're getting in your car, and you're like, hey, why are these guys on? Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. He will remain the president of the United States. He's supposed to speak to the nation sometime this week.
Yeah.
But joining us now is our buddy Mike Broomhead, just back from Milwaukee. He was at the RNC. I never thought I'd get another chance to say that again, but I feel really good about it.
Excited about that.
It never gets old. No. It never gets old.
All right. So, Mike, you were just at the RNC, and I'll ask you this question. If you're Trump, you're not too happy today. You want to run against Joe Biden. You want to run against the guy who called Zelensky Putin. I mean, Harris, okay, fine, you know, still. But if you're Trump, or if you're a Trump supporter, the guy that you were going to beat is now out.
You had to feel pretty good about running against Biden.
Right?
And I think also to add another element to that, I think Trump wanted to beat Biden. I think
like
after what happened in 20, it was personal. He wanted that rematch, and he wanted to beat Biden.
Interesting. But could he take it as, well, I helped push you out of the race. I got shot, and then I got up like a freaking warrior, and I put my fist in the air. I mean, Trump was Trump part of getting Biden pushed out?
No, I don't think so. I think that pressure was on him. I think the debate performance by the president and the follow-up interview with George Stephanopoulos, and I think that they were seeing it. There were so many Democrats asking him to get out. I think it helped solidify some voters for Trump, but I think the Democrats wanted him out just because of his performance recently.
Well, and I think, I don't think they're all completely stupid. They must have been looking at some of the data out there, like the swing state polls going, well, we just can't get there from here.
Right. Yeah, you're right. 100% right.
We're talking to Mike Broomhead on KTAR, and it's Bruce and Gatos. The big news, Biden will not run for re-election. Okay, so Trump is up by 7 in Arizona, 6 or 7. Do we throw that away? Is it all new now? Let's say it's Harris and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and that's the ticket. What do you think happens?
I think that Trump still wins Arizona. Harris was the border czar. Arizona is not going to forget that. No one's going to let Arizona voters forget that. So I think top of the ticket, she was the one that was supposed to fix the border. So I think they may narrow the gap, but I still think because of that, because of her being on her poor performance with the border, or at least a perception of it, that I think he wins. Trump wins Arizona.
You know, these elections have turned into kind of. By the way, we're speaking to Mike Broomhead. Sorry about that. They about turnout, and certainly the Trump side had energy and enthusiasm. Does Kamala Harris bring more energy to the Democratic side compared to Biden?
Yeah.
Anybody does.
Yeah, I think she does. But don't you also think, I wonder what you guys think. I think now they make Joe Biden a martyr. He's a hero. Joe stepped aside. Let's go win one for Joe. Joe looked out for the country instead of himself. And I think he's going to be a rallying cry for them now instead of a liability.
Well, I don't think the Democratic Party loses votes by putting up Kamala Harris. I mean, Democrats don't like Trump. So, I mean, here's another thing. Does it matter who our vice president is at all?
Maybe if it's a swing state person in that state, someone from Pennsylvania, somebody, if they get then possibly in that state, but nationwide, I don't think so.
Do you think they're going to run anybody against her? Because we're starting
in the primary, this sped up primary or whatever they call it.
We've seen Mark Kelly; he's endorsed her. Now we've seen
Josh
Governor,
Shapiro's endorsed her.
That's what I was going to say. Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro endorsed her. I think we've got the
Clintons, Bill and Hillary.
So I don't know, man. Maybe this is Harris, and that's it.
Yeah, and then who does she pick? That'll be interesting.
But you don't think she's going to run against anybody?
No, I don't think so. I think they're in such a corner with time. They've got their right around the corner is the DNC, and then they've got to rally voters as many as they can, and they got to get all the signs. I know this sounds dumb. They got to get the bumper stickers and the T-shirts and the yard signs. They got to get everything else switched around, and they don't have much time.
Yeah, but you just hand it to Harris, and people are going to be like, "Well, just take some independents." People are going to be like, "Hey, you lied to us. You said the guy was fine, and he obviously isn't fine. He just dropped out of the race."
Yeah, but she was vice president. If he was unable to be president, she was going to step in anyway. I mean, she was the front runner anyway.
Yeah, but she knew that he was suffering. Everybody knew in the White House that is not the same guy as 2 years ago or even a year ago.
George Bush knew that about Ronald Reagan, and he damn well didn't say a word.
No, it's true. But I just wonder, but Ronald Reagan wasn't running for re-election. Biden was, and Harris didn't say anything, and I don't expect.
But they're
going to
say that no matter who they run for president, the Republicans have to go out and say you've been lied to for the better part of 2 years. That's going to be part of what they're telling America. So it doesn't matter who they run. I think Harris is the fit. I think she gets into the war chest. She gets that big war chest they have. I think she's the obvious fit to move into that spot.
I don't disagree. I'd love to see a competition for it.
Me too.
But I think she wins that competition even if they have it.
See the competition.
Yeah.
Let's at least
I think it's about money. I think it comes down to money.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us, man. Just back from Milwaukee. We'll see you tomorrow at 8.
Take care, guys.
Okay.
All
Mike
right.
Broomhead.
Yeah. So, again, where do you... Gatos, by the way, my predictions continue to hold true. I say we're going to have these oh my God moments in this
you're
thing.
right.
We couldn't predict. And I still think we got about 3 more.
I don't even know if there's...
Oh, my God moments before the election day.
Like, there used to be something called an October surprise.
Yeah.
Now there's an October surprise times a billion every couple weeks.
Every week, it feels like.
Yeah, it's not just a normal October surprise in July.
Right.
Trump almost getting assassinated last week.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. Right.
The debate. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and now you've got Biden bailing.
Trump getting convicted. Oh, my God.
Yeah, a convicted felon running for the presidency.
Just one after another.
Yeah. And a very unpopular vice president who looks like she's going to take over the Democratic Party.
I'll tell you what, these last 3 weeks have been the longest year of my life. I got to tell you, it has been unreal.
It's been cringeworthy. It's been scary with the Trump thing. If he had been killed, and we've talked about this, this country would have. I don't even know. There would have been people who wanted to riot and loot and burn because they would have felt you just killed our guy. You allowed the Secret Service. You didn't give us enough Secret Service. You killed our guy.
I think that says something about them.
I know, but again, I understand why they would be absolutely furious. Not again, don't go and burn stuff. But I think that's what would have happened. And now you have Joe Biden. You know, he's bailing. And are Democrats really upset about it? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Hey, can I give you something? National Weather Service issued a dust storm alert till 4:30. We've got heavy winds blowing in, a lot of dust out there. Do be careful if you are driving. We have a emergency alert if your phone just went off and started vibrating or something.
Read it again. Can you read it again for everybody if they just missed it? Because this is big.
National Weather Service dust storm warning.
Yeah.
For the valley until 4:30. Be ready for a sudden drop to zero visibility. Pull to the side. Okay, stay alive.
Yep.
When visibility drops, pull far off the road, put your vehicle in park, turn the lights off, and keep your foot off the brake. That's important. People might follow your...
We've got blowing dust and winds up to 50 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Traveling southeast along the 303 and, let's see, west of the I-17.
Okay.
And so I'm looking at a picture.
It's pretty big.
Almost zero visibility.
Yeah, almost zero visibility. So
yeah.
Do pull off, get as far off to the side you can. Important thing, take your foot off the brake.
Right.
Put the car in park.
Right.
That's the safest thing you can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Monsoon is here.
Yeah.
All right. So when we come back, let's talk about Biden dropping out of the race. It happened hours ago. Let's talk about this. How much time, a warning, I guess, did he give his staff? Did he give Kamala Harris? How much time before that letter went out on social media? The breaking news is Joe Biden is not going to run for re-election. It's Bruce and Gatos. We're outspoken 4 to 7 throughout the week, and we'll be right back.
Rosie on the house.
Every Arizona homeowner's best friend for over 30 years. Saturday mornings 8 till 11 on KTAR News 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
President Biden posted in a letter on X that he is no longer running for re-election, saying, quote, "I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He says he'll speak to the nation later this week in more detail about his decision. He is currently at his home in Delaware recovering from COVID.
Stay with KTAR News for more on this breaking news story on 92.3 and the KTAR News app. You're never more than 15 minutes away from today's top news stories. Arizona's breaking news and traffic leader with Arizona's largest radio news team. KTAR News on 92.3 FM.
Start smart with Arizona's morning news.
If you own a Dodge Ram, listen up. You might have bought a vehicle that's far worse on the environment than advertised. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays has filed a lawsuit alleging Fiat Chrysler automobiles designed trucks to pass emissions without actually meeting requirements.
Arizona's morning news, weekday mornings 5 to 8 on Arizona's news station, KTAR News, 92.3 FM, and the KTAR News app.
This month's KTAR Community Impact Spotlight focuses on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their support for Phoenix Children's. The Give-a-thon for Phoenix Children's is coming up in August, and over their 15-year association with Give-a-thon, your Valley Hyundai dealers have donated more than $1 million to Phoenix Children's, and they forecast their largest gift ever for 2024. KTAR News is proud to shine the Community Impact Spotlight on your Valley Hyundai dealers and their tremendous giving to Phoenix Children's. The atmosphere over Arizona is just right for the monsoon, generating sudden, severe thunderstorms with high winds, damaging hail, lightning, torrential downpours of rain, and blowing dust, making driving conditions unsafe on any road. Stay alert and stay informed with Arizona's news station, covering the monsoon all across the valley. KTAR News 92.3 and the KTAR News app. The KTAR News app. It's your portal to a world of Arizona news and information from Arizona's news station. Listen to podcasts, stream KTAR News live, read breaking news stories on the KTAR News app. Presented by Rias Air Conditioning.
KTAR Breaking News Alert.
KTAR News Time is 3:45. I'm Jonah Harkle. There has been plenty of reaction from elected leaders from Arizona following President Joe Biden's decision to leave the presidential race. Arizona's Secretary of State Adrian Fontes says that he is confident that Arizona will deliver a general election that will represent the, quote, will of the people after Biden's decision to withdraw. On the other side of the political aisle, Arizona Republican Party Chair Gina Swoboda says regardless of who Democrats choose for the top of their ticket, they will lose in November, adding Donald Trump and J.D. Vance will restore opportunity and bring back American greatness. Once again, breaking today, President Biden has announced he is no longer running for president this year. We also want to warn you of a dust storm warning in effect until 4:30 for the I-10 near Avondale, Goodyear, and the I-10, the I-17, and US 60 near Phoenix and Mesa. The National Weather Service is reporting blowing dust and winds up to 50 miles per hour traveling southeast along the 303 and west of the I-17. Get breaking news notifications right to your phone by downloading the KTAR News app, and for more, go to KTAR.com.
A KTAR News Special on 92.3 FM and the KTAR News app.
All right, we're back.
We got the breaking news.
We got breaking news on top of breaking news, Gatos.
I'll do the first one. How about you do the second one?
Oh, goodness.
Joe Biden has stepped out of the presidential race. Happened hours ago. He wrote a letter, and from what we're understanding, he told people a minute before he released the letter, which, of course, if you believe that, I don't know what that was, but we can turn that down. He told people about a minute beforehand, which I don't
Apparently
buy.
Called his staff. Well, I mean, the campaign and the staff, because the campaign was still putting out things this morning about Biden's in. We're out. I mean, they wouldn't have been doing that if they knew. All right. I see your breaking news.
Yeah.
And I'm going to raise you a emergency alert from the National Weather Service. There is a dust storm warning in effect for the next 45 minutes. We have almost zero visibility conditions out on parts of the West Valley right now. Please be careful. A reminder, if you're driving, pull over, all the way over, put the car in park, keep your foot off the brakes. All right?
Yeah, and there are parts of the valley that, I mean, there's
like you were saying on the 303 over there and west of the 17.
I mean, we're talking like valley-wide. I'm looking at this thing now, so it's pretty big.
So be
careful.
Be smart, be careful, please.
All right, so Bruce, when you heard the news of Biden stepping down,
not surprised.
Not surprised at all. I told you we'd be back here on Sunday. I had a couple sources that said the thing was going down on Sunday. Listen, I'm glad he's out. I really am. I've always said this. I don't hate Joe Biden. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate Donald Trump. I don't want to have hate for people. I felt sorrow for Joe Biden because he can't keep up anymore. And you can't lead the world if you can't keep up.
I don't hate Joe Biden. I thought I was concerned about his ability to do the job of president.
Me too.
For 4 more years. Much less running for president. And I thought that was a fair conversation to have. And here's the reality. I think the thing that, in the end, sunk Joe Biden,
other than the debate,
was the last 3 weeks. His health, his mental acuity,
COVID,
his age, became the only conversation about Joe Biden. He'd go out and talk about job numbers, and people go, screw those names up. He'd go out and, I'm going to build back America. But they talk about, that he looks slow walking up the steps.
But that's the right thing to talk about.
I'm just saying.
We should talk about how slow he was.
He couldn't change the conversation.
No.
And he was not physically able to change that conversation before the election.
And I'm glad that we talked about that, and I'm glad that we saw that, and I'm glad that debate happened, because remember, the White House was telling us he's fine. He's not fine. I think he's barely going to make it through the presidency. And when I say that, I don't mean like, something awful. I'm just saying he's not up for the job even to finish, I don't think. But also, if you're going to run Kamala Harris, it's asking way too much for her to run for president, let alone become the president.
Oh, at the same time, like simultaneous.
It's just too much.
That's probably fair.
I just think it's way too much for
anybody.
You
wouldn't be able to do both, which means you wouldn't be president.
Right. So he's going to finish up. I don't think anybody's going to go after him and try and get him out.
No. I mean, some people, but
then they'll do their thing. But I'm glad I don't have to watch him in a debate anymore. I'm glad I don't have to see him on the campaign trail anymore. And the reason is he's just not fit for office anymore. He's just not. Cognitively, the decline has been enormous over the last year and a half. And I said this a year and a half ago. He ain't going to be around for this election. And I was right. I always thought he was going to drop out. It was just a matter of time. Now, did I think he would do as bad as he did in that debate? I don't think anybody thought he could do. Would be that bad. My gosh.
No, you couldn't have predicted that.
Never have predicted that.
I mean, we even talked about how low the bar was set prior to that debate, and he didn't even get over that. The bar was like literally lying on the stage, and he still tripped over it. Just so you know, by the way, the new Donald Trump, the new softer, gentle, the one who saw his lights flash before his eyes with a new warmth in his heart?
No.
Here's what he just said.
That's not who he is.
You ready? My debate with crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States.
Is this today?
This was minutes ago.
Go
this
ahead.
was
so
8 minutes ago.
Finally hearing from Trump on Biden.
Oh, he's been tweeting all day.
Go ahead.
My debate was slated to be broadcast on fake news ABC, the home of George Slopadopoulos, sometime in September. Now that Joe not surprisingly, has quit, I'm reading it the way he wrote it, like a 3-year-old, has quit the race, I think the debate with whomever the radical left Democrats choose should be held on Fox News rather than the very biased ABC. Thank you, DJT. So he's trying to get out of the debate. He's trying to get out.
Well, let's talk about it for a second. We've got a few minutes here.
He don't want a debater.
Yeah, I mean, I can
the contrast of the two of them on stage. Because here's what we did on the last one.
Yeah.
If you saw that debate with the sound off, Biden looked old.
Confused.
He looked out of it, looked confused.
Yeah.
So what if you had Kamala Harris and Donald Trump with the sound off? One of them would look really old.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think this through. Like you popped it on me.
Yeah, I saw it. Just popped up.
Would Donald Trump want to debate Harris? Well, his ego would. He'd want to dice her up. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this: I don't know. I don't know if she's a good debater. Like when I say that, can she go one-on-one?
She wasn't great when she was running for president.
No.
She debated against Biden.
No, but I mean, she's, her past job, she's been in courtrooms and all that kind of stuff. She should be able to hold her own.
She did really well as a senator when they would do those, hearings and she would drill into people. She was okay with that. She was being a prosecutor, right?
But, off the cuff, she's not very good. She's just not. Off the cuff, Donald Trump, he says nutty things and he talks about sharks and how he doesn't want to jump into the water and get electrocuted. But he'll tear you. He'll rip you into one right. He will. That's his debate. That's how he debates. But he
hates women. And will he be able to debate a woman and not come across as seething and angry?
How did he come across with Hillary?
Seething and angry.
But how did Hillary come across debating, Donald Trump? I mean, if you're up for the job, you got to be ready to go.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. There's not going to be any respect from Donald Trump.
What do you read into Democrats lining up, endorsing Vice President Harris relatively quickly But Obama coming out, talking about what a great president Joe Biden has been, his ex-vice president, but stopping short of endorsing Vice President Harris. And Obama is the rock star in the Democratic Party still,
By
right?
far.
I mean, he's the...
There's no one above
right?
him. Yeah.
He's their Michael Jordan or whatever. Okay.
Right. But here's the thing. Democrats will be like, he's not saying anything because Michelle's going to run, which we think is not going to happen.
Michelle Obama is never running.
I don't know.
For president or office.
I don't know.
I think we have a good chance of Melania running. Neither of them wants the gig. How's that?
Yeah. But you saw the polls. She's crushing Donald Trump. Right?
Yeah.
Michelle Obama crushes him. I mean, by like 11 or 12 points, crushes him. But that's not the reason that Obama didn't endorse Kamala today. I don't know the reason, to be honest with you, because I think that the Democrats have had this plan for a couple weeks. Hey, it's Kamala, Biden stepping down. Everybody, you're going to get behind her. Don't run against her.
We need to make it look competitive, though.
I don't know how you're going to do that.
We need to make it look like she earned it. How do you do that?
Well, so far, you've got Mark Kelly, who was, a lot of people said, well, the Arizona senator, he could be at the top of the ticket. Let's watch them go at it. Nope, Kelly is endorsed Harris. How about Shapiro, governor, Pennsylvania? Trump's winning over there too, winning Arizona too. Shapiro said, "No, I'm on the Harris train." So who wants to run against her? And maybe there's some people out there that are Democrats, and they say, "Yeah, I don't want to run against Trump. He's going to win this thing."
Can I read more Trump bat poop crazy stuff?
Do we need to? This
is a good one.
Okay.
This was minutes ago. So we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He polls badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Should the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking.
Well, I think a lot of people knew that Joe Biden was cognitively in decline and didn't say anything.
He wants to be reimbursed for all the time he spent trashing Joe Biden.
Well, again, Trump can say what he wants. I don't know. He changes his campaign. I really don't think he does. I think right now, if you're being honest, his campaign is on fire. He had a great RNC, whether you like the guy or not. He got shot on stage and looked terrific doing it. Got a big, nice picture that's iconic.
He had about 2-3 days to bask in the glow.
Yeah.
That ain't the story anymore.
No.
The convention was like a year ago, wasn't it?
It ain't like he's running against a rock star, Bruce.
No. But he isn't running against, quote, the worst guy in the world.
Well, he's not running against a guy who can't think for himself anymore. And I don't like it. Doesn't make me feel good to say that about Joe Biden. But Harris is highly unpopular.
We shall see.
So is Trump in some places too.
Yep.
All right.
How will this shake up the numbers, especially in swing states? We'll find out.
Yeah. So we'll be here tomorrow at 4. Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos.
Can we do a war room at 5?
We will. We'll do continuing coverage coming up in minutes. ABC News. Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. Stick around.
Guys, when she's ready, should